Almost picked hello. That would have been incorrect. Yeah. Oh my god. Why do I always start it so fucking loud in my ears? Alright. Load the game. Wait, which one is selected? Orange seems... Nope, white. Okay. That's where I can tell which one was the selected option.
Nah, スイポ見た？
ああ、壁砲ボットのネタ画像でしょ。でっかいウーパがドヤ顔して光るように座って渋谷も変わったとか言ってる。
I love the Oopa. I love me an Oopa. I got Hekiho bot. A Twitter account followed by over 80% of Hekiho students. It's popular for its variety of tweets, which include funny memes, news about discounts at cafes and restaurants near Hekiho, school rumors, and other things of interest to the student body. Despite the word bot designated an automated posting program in its name, it doesn't post at regular times, and its posts vary in content, so it's thought to be an actual student or an actual account run by someone at the school. Fair enough. Where's my Oopa? Yeah. A ball-shaped mascot from the popular manga Rainet Kakeru, which began running in Roco Comics in 2006. The anime version only increased his popularity, and large amounts of merchandise such as stuffed animals followed. Good old Oopa.
そうそう、めっちゃ切なそうなの。あれさ、文化祭で使うね。渋谷復興の歴史の展示なんてどうせ誰も見ねえじゃん。
画像だけじゃ弱くない？なんかぬいぐるみとか実際に置かないと。
The male student started to search through Shibuya's stores with his smartphone. He must have found something strange because he kept mumbling, "No way." Ito was recording the newspaper club's project for the festival. A bunch of random footage of the preparation in the cafeteria. Hold on. Ito was recording the newspaper club's project for the festival. A bunch of is there supposed to be a punctuation there? A bunch of okay. A bunch of random footage of the preparation. That sentence confuses me. I think there's either supposed to be a word or a punctuation there that is not there and makes the sentence confusing. I think I get the idea though. A body had just been found in Dogenzaka yesterday, and all these students cared about was their stupid jokes. The body was found less than 10 minutes away from the school, but they barely even mentioned it.
ま、確かにまだ大掛かりには報道されてないけどさ。
Oh god damn it. First reports had been on a major communications company's website. That's where Ito had seen it. It had been last night. It had made the morning news in the morning papers, but all that had been reported was that a body had been found, and that no details were known. And it was rare for a high school kid to check the TV news and papers every day. There was no word from Miyashiro. Ito was really worried about what had happened at the Love Hotel, but he had no way of asking about it. Trauma. Trauma had happened. Deep, deep trauma. He took out his phone, even though he knew he hadn't gotten any calls. Oh my god. Cords. So many cords and cables. Shit. Sure enough, there were no messages. One of these days, I'm gonna get like a Bluetooth headset for my dang computer. It will be beautiful. He'd been doing that a lot since yesterday. He couldn't bring himself to make a call. He didn't know what to say. He didn't know what to say to a friend who'd been taken away by the police. The laughing students irritated Ito in a way that he didn't really understand. He'd been planning on videotaping the entire cafeteria today, but instead he gave up and left. Not in the mood.
撮影お疲れ様。
He went inside the club room and saw Kurusu was there.
連絡は
Kurusu's expression clouded for a moment as she shook her head.
あれからは何も。
そっか
Wakui, the club advisor, had told him that Kurusu had taken a change of clothes for Miyashiro to the police station last night. She'd been told that neither Miyashiro nor Onoe were hurt. Police were probably going to let them off with a warning, and if they weren't suffering any after effects from the trauma, they'd be let go in the morning. But school was over. It was almost evening, and there was no word from either of them. Ito dropped into his chair.
たく学校のみんなは平和なもんだよ。昨日のことなんてほとんど誰も話してないんだぞ。
そう。
そりゃあ東京じゃ発表されてるだけでほぼ1週間に2人のペースで誰かが殺されてるんだから、変死体があったってだけじゃ別に真新しくもないけどさ。にしたってな、道玄坂なんてもろ近所じゃん。下手したらそこを通って登校してるやつもいるかもしれないってのに。つかいるだろ、うちなら。あれかな、あいつがいつも言ってるみたいに社会に関するニュースを載せてるサイトとかにアクセスしないやつばっかりなのかな。
Wrong siders.
わかりやすいね。
Kurusu chuckled.
は？
心配なんでしょ、二人のこと。
Ito started to speak, but then choked it back.
別に副部長こそ心配なんじゃないの？
Ridiculous, she chuckled.
怒ってる。処置なしだもの。セリカはともかくとしてね。忠告も聞かずに突っ込んで無茶するからこんなことになる。伊藤君にも新聞部の文化祭の映像押し付けることになるし。
いや別にそれは大したことないからいいんだけどさ。
ダメ。与えられた役割はきっちりこなすのが当たり前でしょ。
ここか。クルス、予算の件どうなってる？
Just got back from Altair. No. Kawahara appeared. He was very out of breath. I swear he literally just looks like someone from Fire Emblem. I will not unsee it.
予算？
超過した予算をまとめたやつ。経理がまだかって。
Kurusu frowned as she realized her mistake.
ごめん。すぐにメールでまとめて送るから。
なるはやで担当の教師が帰っちゃう前に。
Kawahara ran off before Kurusu had time to answer. And before he was even out of sight, Kurusu had booted up the PC and started to tap at the keys.
何？
いや別に。
Which of us is more obvious? That's what Ito was about to say before he stopped himself. Normally, it was impossible to imagine Kurusu not doing her job. For a while after that, Kurusu focused intently on her work. Ito didn't have much else to do, so he watched her. When he looked carefully, he could see small dark spots under her eyes. She probably hadn't slept. And then Ito realized, for the first time, Kurusu had probably come to the club room to see if either of them had contacted him. With all the preparations that were going on, there was no other reason for her to be here.
なんとまあ、あの女帝がね。
Kurusu pressed down hard on one final key as she finished her task. Then, suddenly, an unpleasant sound filled the room. I don't hear it. I don't hear it.
なあ、
わかってる。
They looked over and saw that Kazuki was nibbling on dried squid as she played her game, oblivious to everything around her. Ito had seen her come in after Kurusu had started her work. He thought she might say hello, but knowing her, maybe not. He'd also seen her start to play her game. He'd been trying not to bring it up, but that was clearly impossible now. She must have been concentrating pretty hard. Her gaze was constant and steady. Ito sighed.
こいつはいつでもマイペースだな。他人に興味がないのかね。
そんなわけないでしょ。この子は他の人よりほんの少しだけ自分が強いの。
にしたってよ。
She's in the same club as them, he started to say, but Kurusu stopped him with a raised hand. She looked down at Kazuki's game screen.
そうでもなかったみたい。
Kurusu chuckled and took off Kazuki's headphones.
カズキ、私はゲームやらないから詳しいことはわからないけど。この家の壁に向かって延々と火の玉出してるのは何か意味があるの？すごい勢いで燃え広がってる。
Kazuki looked back at the screen with a stunned expression on her face. She yanked the headphones out of Kurusu's hands and quickly put them on, then started to pound at the keyboard.
落ち着きなさい。というかその煩わしいスルメ、飲み込むか出すかしなさい。行儀悪い。
Kazuki may or may not have heard her, because she struggled with her game for a while, and then... Oh my gosh. She froze, like a toy whose batteries had run out. The squid... I love this tiny detail. You could see the little bit of squid. That's really funny. The squid she'd been chewing fell out of her mouth and landed on the desk. She stared at it for almost 30 seconds, as if something impossible had happened. She then silently stood up and staggered over to the shelf where we kept the electric coffee maker. Her face had turned pale.
カズキ、大丈夫か？
She's like super sleepy.
コーヒー入れてくれるのか？
Kazuki nodded in answer to Ito's second question and started making coffee with shaking hands. She made Kurusu her usual with 2 cups of sugar and gave Ito a coffee mixed with milk. Then she made a cup for herself, black, but didn't drink a drop. Her forehead slammed into the desk with a thud, and she became so quiet it was impossible to tell if she was breathing.
ね。
Kurusu looked to Ito for agreement as she cleaned up Kazuki's squid. They keep changing how they're spelling his name. It's weird.
いや、そうか？
Why? Why? He took a sip from his coffee, not sure what to think. To him, none of this made any sense. Kurusu didn't say another word as she drank her coffee. Ito looked up at the blank ceiling and decided that this was as good a time as any to ask. It wasn't that it was wrong, but it still felt kind of awkward.
あのさ、
何？
あいつがこんなに事件に入れ込んでるのって何か理由があんの？
Kurusu froze. She lowered her gaze, as if searching for answers in her coffee cup.
伊藤君こそずいぶん事件に対して熱心じゃない？
She seemed to be trying to change the subject.
俺はこういうのが好きな人だから。
Nice deflection.
こういうの？
猟奇的な事件。でも昨日みたいに現場に忍び込むっていうのは。
That was going too far, he continued. Kurusu silently took another sip of her coffee. She seemed to be staring at a single point in the distance, lost in thought. It was clear that while she was seeing the things around her, none of them held any meaning to her. Looking at her scared Ito a little. Was it really that big a deal?
別に言いたくなければ。
そういうわけじゃない。きっと基本的には伊藤君と同じ。タクルも好きだもの、こういうの。それに危なっかしいところに首を突っ込みたがるのも昔からだし。
I see, Ito said.
小学校からだっけ？あいつが副部長と一緒に暮らすようになったの。
ええ。正確には被災して少し経ってからだから、中学生に上がるか上がらないかの時だけど。
Kurusu and Miyashiro were both what people had called earthquake orphans. They'd both been in 6th grade when they lost their parents to the earthquake. Since they had no relatives to take them in, they'd been sent to the same group home? Why is that a... what? They'd been sent to the same group home. The localized, small-scale children's welfare facilities, Aoba Dormitory. I'm unfamiliar with that. Is that a Japanese thing? Small-scale children... A small-scale children's welfare facility with a maximum capacity of up to 6 children. Also called group homes. These facilities are often the homes of private individual families and are said to be able to offer more personalized care for the children. Gotcha. Kids like them weren't common in Shibuya these days, but they weren't exactly rare either. Miyashiro had been so badly injured during the earthquake that he'd been put into a coma. He was still in that coma when he arrived at the dorms. The head of the dorm was also the head doctor at the Aoba clinic downstairs, and so for a while, that was where he was kept. Kurusu had taken care of literally all his needs. There were 4 kids at the facility. Kurusu and Miyashiro were the oldest. Since her birthday was earlier than his, she dubbed herself the oldest of 4 siblings, and volunteered to take care of the other 3. Even back then, Miyashiro had a habit of being curious and getting into trouble.
だいたい天の弱だしね。みんなとは違うってよく言ってるでしょ。そんなことはないのに。
She spoke like a parent worried for her child's future.
でも結局あの子は。
お疲れ様。おや、クルス君も来てたのか。
先生、連絡があったんですか？
The club advisor, Wakui, was quite relaxed as he came into the room. Kurusu quickly stood up and rushed over to him. He nodded and motioned for her to calm down.
ついさっきね。
大丈夫そうでしたか？
それは
What
も
does
ちろん。
this guy remind me of? This
ほ
guy
ら、
reminds me
伊
of
藤
someone.
君、すぐに体育館に行きなさい。
It's gonna drive me nuts.
Huh?
Somebody for
体育
sure.
館。なんで？
軽音部が今からリハーサルをするって。いい文化祭の記録になるんじゃないかな。
Kurusu's expression froze. And suddenly it changed.
涌井先生？連絡ってそれですか？
That tone is terrifying.
そうだよ。って、 なんだいクルス君、機嫌がいいね。
先生には機嫌がいいように見えますか？
行ってくる。先生も行こう。
She's gonna blow!
ちょっ
Duck and cover! Sensing a gathering storm of violence, Ito pushed Wakui out the door. Wow. Kazuki had looked up, but now she slammed her head back on the desk. Now that she was all alone, Kurusu took out her phone and checked it. There was no message, of course. She sighed and looked at the board. That incident yesterday at the Love Hotel. Whether it was a murder or suicide, from the way Miyashiro and Onoe had looked when they'd been taken by the police, something had happened. Miyashiro had said it had something to do with the incident 6 years ago. Now that it had happened 3 times, there was no ignoring it. No, it was too dangerous. She couldn't let him get any more involved than this. She thought back to Ito's question about why Miyashiro was so interested in this case. Kazuki was still lying with her head on the desk. She turned her head to the side. For some reason, she looked like she was enjoying herself. When Kurusu saw that, she suddenly lost her desire to drink the coffee. Apologizing in her mind to Kazuki, she decided to pour it out at the water fountain. Am I missing something? What was that? What's going on? She headed to the upstairs water fountain, which was usually less crowded. She found herself looking down at the gaps between the tiles as the sound of her footsteps rang in her ears. She could tell that she was walking slower than usual. Essentially, Kurusu was lonely. She remembered what she'd said to Miyashiro when he woke up in the clinic.
クルスママ、名前で呼んで。家族なのに名字で呼び合うのはおかしいでしょ。
In the end, he...
あの子は特別が気取りたいだけなんだから。
She knew why, she supposed. The event that had caused him to leave the dorm was still bothering him. What happened? November 7th, 2009.
なんで携帯が繋がらねえんだよ。
I wanted water. I could still feel the sensation of the dead woman I'd touched when I'd fallen on my hands, and I wanted to wash it off. I wanted to wash my face, too. The wind from the flames had blown something small into my eye, and it itched badly. I was thirsty, too. Sarika was on my back, and showed no signs of waking up. My legs were at their limit, so I forced my way through the crowd and sat down on a tire that had rolled nearby. It smelled like burning rubber. I didn't have the energy to apologize to the people I ran into. And they didn't have the energy left to complain. I slowly brought Sarika to rest on my knees and looked around. I saw an orange light. The light of the fires reflected off many things. It was pretty, I thought, before I realized how inappropriate that was. For some reason, I started to count the bodies on the ground, not knowing if they were alive or dead. But in less than 5 seconds, I'd gotten way over 10 and realized how futile it was. I stopped. Shibuya Station was utterly destroyed. The 107, only a few minutes away by foot, was ruined as well. 5 whole hours after the earthquake, and chaos had only increased. There were fewer people out walking, but I wasn't sure if that was because they'd reached safety or simply collapsed from exhaustion. What's that rescue? I saw someone carrying his own severed arm in a convenience store bag. Jesus Christ. I saw people ignore a barefoot woman as she cradled a baby whose head was smashed in. Some had outright given up on sanity and were flinging things into the fire. A group of middle-aged salarymen were dragging a young girl into the darkness. A young man went to join them. There was no other way to describe it. This was hell. Sarika moaned a little in my lap. I slapped her cheeks to wake her up. Her face distorted in agony. It was okay. She was breathing. She was okay.
これから代々木に向かうから。ほら、あの大きい総合病院。覚えてるだろう。昔冒険しに忍び込んだあそこだよ。
Instead of answering, she just moved her eyebrows a little. I swore and lifted her back up on my back again. She didn't seem to be that badly hurt, but this kept happening. I read on Twitter that the General Hospital in front of Yoyogi Station was accepting patients injured in the earthquake. I didn't know that it was true, but I had no choice but to go. It had to be better than the hell that was Shibuya.
死ぬなよ。
I yelled, unsure if Sarika could even hear me, and started walking. I just needed to get to the hospital. Excuse? Pardon? I leapt up. I quickly glanced to the left and right as I tried to calm my racing heart. I saw that I was in my own bed. I felt exhausted. I also felt really thirsty. Maybe it was because I had that dream again. I searched around until I found the bottle of water by my bedside, took a gulp, then grabbed the phone off my bed and to check the time.
0時17分。もう日付変わってるのか。
It was around noon when the police had let me go from Shibuya Station with a warning. I'd gone home and gone straight to bed, so I would have been out for more than 12 hours. This was no good. Maybe I'd slept too long, or maybe I hadn't slept enough, because my head felt like it was filled with lead. Also my controller died. I should probably plug it in. Charger. Come on. Thank you.
いや、違うか。
I put my hands up to the thin light that was coming through the window and checked their color. They were the same as always. There was no blood on them. I felt a little like throwing up. I hoped another drink of water would help, but it didn't.
くそ。
I thought for a moment, and then decided to turn on the room lights. I turned on the laptop. I ran a search for urge to vomit lessen foods drinks. The internet gave me page after page of results. I checked a bunch of pages, just like you're supposed to do when you're looking something up.
生姜か。なら源さんからもらった葛根湯があるか。
I looked under the sink until I found the kakonto powder, then poured it into a cup and added some hot water from the electric kettle. It had a strange smell, unlike anything I was used to. I took a sip. I could tell that my hands were shaking a little as I held the cup. God damn it all. It wasn't the first time I'd seen a body. I checked the phone again and saw that there were several messages from Serika and Kurusu. I went to answer, but stopped. They were probably still up, but I didn't feel like talking to anyone. I felt like the air I'd breathed in at the Love Hotel yesterday was still deep inside me. Along with the cheerful melody of the music box and the red that covered my vision. I felt something strange on my cheek and put a hand up to feel it. It was a bandage. I'd gone to some kind of clinic at the police station where they'd put it on. They told me I must have hit my face hard on the floor when I'd passed out. I was unlucky enough to scrape my cheek against a piece of the shattered glass. Thankfully, it wasn't a big wound. It barely hurt at all. But it itched like hell. And each time it itched, the shock I'd felt came rushing back and quickened my pulse. The danger was long gone, but I still couldn't forget the terror. Had I almost been caught up in something horrible? No. I was fine. I was fine, right? I wasn't like everyone else. I wasn't an amateur. I'd gone through that hell I just dreamed about and survived. Maybe having that nightmare again was good for me. I managed to force down the urge to vomit, then clicked away at the computer. I opened my computer's TV program, changed the channel to a news program, and watched it on my monitor. A few months ago, this is the bad music, this is the scary music, I don't like it. I bought a USB TV tuner off of a homeless guy who had no idea what it was worth. All it cost me was dinner at a local restaurant. Just like I thought, there was an article about the events 2 days ago. All they said was that a man's body was found in a Dogenzaka Love Hotel. They didn't say whether it was suicide, murder, or just an accident. There was nothing about the girl who'd been found at the scene, or about me and Serika. I see.
やっぱりこんなもんなのか。
I'd never experienced for myself the gap between what happened at a crime scene and what was reported on TV, but it didn't really surprise me. These days, the internet was a lot faster at reporting things than TV. To people who followed the news online, TV wasn't a place to learn new things. It was where you went to see if something you'd heard about was so important that it was getting TV coverage.
ネットの大衆はどうだ。
I closed the TV program and opened a browser. Nikonia News had something on it too. I clicked on the uploaded video. Turn of the new generation.
渋谷でまた事件です。最近の渋谷では今回の件と合わせて3つの物騒な事件が発生しているんですが。
Just looking at the tags. Normal others, news, Watabe, kind of an obnoxious face. Fake, die in a fire Watabe. Con man, CC syndrome. Those tags really vary, huh? Alright. Just like always, it was Watabe, the attention-seeking internet reporter. He was famous for charging into crime scenes to get scoops. Lately, he seemed to be getting a little too cocky. He explained what had gone on at the Love Hotel as the video showed pictures that he had probably taken himself.
いずれにせよ、警察は何か隠していると思います。ただ変死体を発見したとしか発表がなされていませんが、それにしては。
And then, like always, he started to mix his own subjective opinion in with the news. He was right, the police were hiding something, but there was little point in listening to the rest of this. Vague information would just get in the way.
大衆もこんなもんか。
I mostly what? I mostly ignored Watabe's voice as I looked at the video on the screen. He must have gotten it by charging into the hotel room.
なんだったんだ、あれは。
I thought back to what had happened. A man was strangled to death in his room. There was an unconscious girl and a police officer there as well. The girl was the most obvious suspect. Even if she chose a strange way to do it, she still must have killed him, right? No, if she had definitely killed him, then they would have announced that. She was arrested, just like I was. Over 30 hours had passed. Even if they'd found out she was innocent, they should have announced that. The police believe that the girl with him may know something and are proceeding with their investigation. Like that. Did the police think that she didn't do it? Then what was she doing in that room? And even if the police had told me during the interrogation that I'd imagined it, I knew what I heard. Someone else had visited that room and knocked on the door. The sound was eerie and always had the same rhythm. I felt a cold chill and idly turned away from the door. Turned toward the door. Literally the opposite of what I just said. Uh-oh. One of these. Okay, I'm gonna lean into the spooky. My room was the same as always. Also, he turned toward the door, right? Okay. Why I read as the opposite. There was no sign of anyone approaching it. I listened carefully to see if I could hear anything outside. Nothing.
だよな。気にしすぎだ。
Huh? I couldn't believe what I was seeing. The doorknob spun on its own. The door opened. Couldn't believe it. I'd forgotten to lock the door. Someone was here. Who? Was it Serica? Again? Or someone who had something to do with what happened yesterday? Was it okay for me to just stand here? Oh, hello. A small shadow slipped in through the gap in the open... Okay. A small shadow slipped through the gap in the open door and came inside. Who is this girl? Our eyes met. Then I realized that I should have looked away. That's a concerning combination of vowels.
誰だ?
Her eyes were blank and out of focus. It was like she was looking at me, but she wasn't. Her skin was so pale and she looked sick. She was mumbling something. She had something behind her back. Not a good combination. It was a knife, only 20 centimeters long. Shit. Shit. She was insane. And then I remembered who she was. She was the girl at the crime scene. What was she doing here? That's not a good thing to hear. She leapt on me without warning. I felt a terrible pain in my solar plexus. I looked down and saw that the knife was embedded deep within my chest. She giggled as she pulled the knife out. Oh my god. Again. And again. The knife went in. How could somebody die like this? It was insane, I thought. Now we're good.
バカバカしい。
That wasn't going to happen. Yeah, no way. None. Yeah, I can't see this guy forgetting to lock the door. I kept telling myself that as I went over and locked the door. Just kidding, apparently he didn't lock the door. It was just like how, after you saw a horror movie, you ended up afraid to go to the bathroom at night. One theory said that a scary experience like that throws the brain into overdrive and causes it to emit too much dopamine, which triggers strong delusions. Basically, I was overthinking it. Nothing crazy like that was actually going to happen. It was physically impossible. I don't know about physically impossible. Highly improbable. So I was fine. Just fine. Took a deep breath and managed to calm myself down. That's right. Crap. It was a new day.
ネットの知識者はどうだ?
I quickly opened another site. Shibuya News. The word pundit's always weird to me. It's a funny word. This was the private news site I trusted the most. Shibuya News. Gotta get the news. I assume that's what that is, right? Is that like just a funny way to spell news? News. It was always updated at midnight every day. The quality of the news and the reliability of its updates made it far more useful than TV or the mass market sites. Online news was faster than TV, but of course, some sites were better off than others. There was no end to the number of wrong-siders who would treat the net as a single entity that was the opposite of TV. The TV says one thing, but the internet says something different, they'd say. If you asked me, they were utter morons. These days, even a lot of the larger internet sites aimed for online, oh my god. These days, even a lot of the larger sites online aimed for the mass market TV, the same mass market the TV news did, Jesus Christ. It was critical that you find out for yourself which sites could really be trusted. Just like the name implied, Shibuya News dealt with the goings-on around Shibuya. It was similar enough to our newspaper club that everyone in the club knew about the site and used it regularly. News. I think I'm gonna start spelling news like that, and people are not gonna know why, and that's okay. Its owner, Kay, was, how to say this, was very skilled at getting and sharing information and seeing its effects. She carefully calculated when to send and when to receive information. A lot of child and grandchild sites use Shibuya News as their parent site. Most of them were privately run news sites as well. I like how the thing that got added to the glossary was parent site, but the thing that's highlighted is Shibuya News. That's funny to me. Site which is a primary source for information. Secondary sites called child sites share this information with other users, and there are also tertiary sites called grandchild sites, which share the information from the child sites. This lingo comes from news sites, and it's also common when running multiple sites to refer to the primary one as the parent site and the sites that were spun off it as the child sites. Neat. As a result, a huge number of people saw the information that Kay spread. To put it more unkindly, Kay was manipulating them. Anytime Kay wrote about a popular shop among high school students in Shibuya, or a free smartphone app, I would hear people at school talking about it within a few days. Take, for example, the Twitter user that most of the Hekiho Academy followed, HekihoBot. It described itself as a bot by Hekiho students for Hekiho students. But from the number of times it would show up on Shibuya News, my guess was that it was actually run by Kay. Kay was one of the few people I recognized as a right-sider. What an honor. When something important was going on in Shibuya, first you checked the TV shows to get the basics, then the mass market sites to see what the net was saying. Then you would go to Shibuya News for the latest information. This was the way the newspaper club, and myself specifically, would always look for information.
やっぱり放送してるか。
The quality of the news wasn't the only reason that Shibuya News was popular. One reason was that Kei appeared to be a girl. When someone was thought to be a girl in real life, they got a lot more hits than someone who was thought to be a guy. And the other reason was...
耳直しにお送りしたのはファンタズムの在家に契約の血をでした。
I missed it! I missed it! No! Hold on, I Phantasm, a gothic punk band that was popular in Shibuya around 2009. 2015, it still has some passionate fans. Me. It's me. It's me. A group of 4, but only the names of the vocalist, Fess, and the guitarist, Rio, have been made public. Whenever there was something big she wanted to report on, she would always do an internet radio broadcast. It offered proof that she was a girl, her voice calm and pleasant to the ear. A lot of people just listened to her broadcasts. The audio from the leaky noise case that I'd played for Kurusu had actually been modified by Kei to be easier to understand.
さて、普段かけないファンタズムさんの楽曲をかけたのは理由があります。昨日、ラブホテルで20代の男性が変死していた事件、ご存知ですよね。ニコニアニュースで相変わらず渡部さんがお元気に喋ってくださってますが。
I chuckled a little. His glory hogging was a running joke among Nikunia News viewers.
一つ、彼は気づいていないことがあります。ファンタズムさんが先ほどの楽曲を発表した6年前、渋谷で何が起こったか皆さんご存知ですよね。そう、渋谷地震です。でもその前に世間を賑わせていたのはニュージェネレーションの狂気と呼ばれた連続猟奇事件でした。
I was startled. That's right. Crap. I'd forgotten after all that had happened at the Love Hotel. No way.
もうお気づきの方もいらっしゃいますね。9月7日のこっちみんな、9月19日の音漏れタン、そして昨日、正確に言えば一昨日ですが、9月29日の変死事件、6年前の事件と日付が一致しているんです。
In that second, the Twitter stream that was linked to the broadcast lit up. It was overflowing with comments.
次の日付はヴァンパイアと呼ばれた事件が起きた10月10日。愛する渋谷にお住まいの皆さん、
That one was rough.
くれぐれもお気をつけて。それでは今回はこの辺りでお付き合いいただきありがとうございます。
Wasn't that the first one?
わずかな時間のお相手は私 K さんでした。
Wasn't Vampire the first one where Whose Eyes Are Those were written at the scene? I think before that it wasn't, but then starting with that one is when that
時
showed
刻は
up.
間もなく2015年10月1日0時30分。悔いのない一日が始められることを祈っています。
She signed off in her usual way, and the broadcast ended. I might be misremembering that, but I think that was the case. She got me. That's right. That hypothesis was why I'd forced my way into the Love Hotel. And something had happened just like I thought. After 3 such incidents, it was only natural to assume there might be a connection. A new generation madness. Group dive. Pregnant man, crucified, vampire, brain dead, yummy hand. Dakun puzzle. I remembered the names. Oh god, pregnant man. I hate that's still the worst one. Oh my god. Was it going to happen again? I suddenly felt a pain in my cheek. I reached up and saw that blood was coming out from the side of the bandage. The cut must have opened. As I took care of it, the red blood on my fingers stood out. Without warning, I felt a horrible sense of dread, like I was sinking into quicksand. Usually, I love to have a mystery to solve, but now that the case was definitely real, I hesitated. For the rest of that night, I wasn't able to do any more research about the case. Yeah, they lost the first go of the crazy scoop. So, the 3 suspicious deaths in Shibuya this month line up with the dates of New Generation Madness. A 4th death is predicted to occur on October 10th. Who is that? King George Shadow Counter-Evolutionary? Oh my god, that name. New Generation Madness. Holy shit. First, seriously? Thread achieved. No, thread archived. Not thread achieved, that's dumb. Thread archived. Aw, yeah. Hell yes. Why? Man, people are really excited for people being murdered. It's happening.gif. Somebody call me. Kay, so smart. Oh man, I'm getting goosebumps. Wow, it was real. How did no one notice? Summary of Kay's podcast. Ooh, this is actually functional. The dates of the New Generation incident 6 years ago match the 3 deaths so far. If the pattern continues, something will happen on October 10th. 9/7/2009 group dive. 9/7/2015 don't look at me. 9/19/2007 pregnant man. 9/19/2015 leaky noise. 9/29/2009 crucified. 9/29/2015 Love Hotel incident. That one doesn't have a name yet. I'm trying to think of a name. Twisted? Maybe Twisted? I don't know. I'm gonna go with Twisted. I don't know what they're gonna end up calling it. October 10th, 2009 Vampire-er. It's still so irritating to say. And October 10th, 2009, I think they meant 2015 there. Question mark? Festival time. No time to eat. Yeah! I love the internet. Let the carnival of miracles begin. Dude, people are dead. What are you doing? New gen. This is true. Isn't that scary as shit? I want to know more about the 3rd death. Was it as nasty as leaky noise? Hey, you're so smart. Let's get married. Whose eyes are those eyes? I got so excited listening to Shibuya News. Here we go. I fapped her voice 3 times. Could do it twice more. Damn, that's stamina. I had the same feeling. I think this means another earthquake's coming. I went to see the Esper 6 years ago in front of the station. Oh, they're talking. The Esper. I was in college then. Now I'm unemployed and stay home all day. The fun's about to start again, huh? What a specific reference. Shibuya's doomed. I'm Kay's dad. So many messages. This means they'll cancel the Restoration Festival. You guys make me sick. People are dead. What the fuck are you all so happy about? Like, that's fair. That is fair. That's kind of what I was saying. Don't look at me. Replying to number 10. What was number 10? Can I go back up? I can't. Oh god. Okay. Got it. I call BS. I thought Kay was smarter than this. I'm disappointed. It's been 6 years. Time to drag this out again. It's the return of the New Generation Madness, and I can't bear it. Return of Nude Generation Madness. 1, don't look at me. Return of the Nude Generation Madness. 2, leaky noise. Return of the Nude Generation Madness. 3, name coming soon. To be continued. Oh my lord, the internet. Yeah, I'm going with Twisted. That's my, I don't know. October 1st, 2015, Thursday. The same time. Same time as what? Shibuya Police Station.
いい加減答えてくれないかな。 名前と住所は？学生さん？それとも働いているのかな？あの柿田っていう男の人と何回もあのホテル行ってるよね。どういう知り合い？付き合ってたの？もし喋るのが嫌ならうなずくとか手を振るとか何でもいいからさ。ね？どうなの
？The officer sank back into her chair in resignation. Shinjo could sympathize.
なるほどな。
He'd just come to check up on her a moment ago, but they'd been probably doing this since yesterday. Locked in an interrogation room, cut off from the outside world, questioned by multiple officers, most people would lose their cool. They'd start to wonder what effects their words were having, and focus on every movement of the officer who was taking down notes. It wasn't hot in the room, but they'd sweat. This girl didn't respond at all. It probably wasn't because she was used to it. If she'd ever been interrogated before, the fingerprints they'd taken would have told them who she was.
新庄さん。
ん？
やはり連れて行った方が。
To a mental hospital, you mean? It made sense. The natural assumption was that the shock of the incident had incapacitated her. Shinjo nodded, as if considering it.
捜索願いは？
This was the second day since the incident. If she lived in a normal family environment, someone should have submitted a missing persons report by now.
洗いました。ですが当たりません。
Shinjo watched the girl as he listened to her talk. But the girl didn't move a muscle.
家庭のことを言外に含ませても動きなしか。
The normal ways weren't going to work then. She'd be sent to a hospital by dawn at this rate.
ご苦労さん。こっちで留置しておくからもういいよ。
The other officer couldn't hide her happiness as she left the room. Shinjo sat down in the chair she'd been sitting in and took a good look at the girl from the front. She was ignoring him and still looking down at the desk. She didn't even seem to notice or care that the person in front of her had changed. Shinjo remembered his conversation with Momose. After he'd hung up, she'd called back in precisely 3 minutes, just like she promised. And then she'd said, "My kid has a message for you."
それだけですか？どういう意味です？
いいからそう聞いてごらんなさい。それで今の新庄ちゃんのような反応をしたり、変わらず黙ったままだったりしたら、
Oh yeah.
残念だけど、悲観値しか取る手段はないそうよ。
I did go back and double check. That was her voice at the end in Senna's ending. That was in fact her voice. That was definitely her voice. She's something else. I don't know what her deal is, but she ain't your mild-mannered detective agency lady. She's something. I don't know what.
もし別の反応をしたら、もう一度連絡をちょうだい。
Why are there 2 of those? What is happening? What computer. Can you just not be a piece of shit for like... Just... Can you not? Christ. The message didn't make much sense, but he didn't see any other way.
一つ聞きたいことがあるんだ。
There was no response, of course. He continued, uncertain if she was even hearing him.
君は持っているものに気づかれなかったのか、元から持っていないのか、どっちだ?
Got her attention. Her eyes moved. Instead of looking down at the desk, she was looking up at Shinjo. Shinjo was surprised, but he did his best to hide it.
どうなんだ?
The girl stared at him as if trying to figure him out. And then a moment later,
誰なんですか? あなたは.
Her words were quiet but sharp. It was the same tone of voice Shinjo used when he was interrogating a subject.
ここの刑事だ。君、名前は?
She seemed to be thinking about something as she stared at him. Her mannerisms were just like his own, again. It was the same way a detective faced a criminal, trying to gain every scrap of information from what he could see. And she slowly opened her mouth.
有村ひなえ。碧峰学園の学生です。
Interesting. I left the motorhome where I lived alone, and only then did I realize it was evening. The sunlight must have been pouring into my room, but I hadn't noticed. I didn't really remember when I'd gone to sleep or when I'd woken up.
大丈夫だな。
I looked around and made sure that none of the scenery had changed, then walked up the steps in front of me. Miyashita Park was just a few minutes' walk from Shibuya Station. It was also known as Homeless Park. This was where I lived after I left the dorm. The first floor was a huge parking structure, and the second story had a futsal field and a climbing wall. I don't know what a futsal field is. Is that a Japan thing? I'm Googling it. Give me a moment. Okay, well, now I know what it looks like, but what is futsal? And also, am I even saying that correctly? Futsal is a football-based game where played on a hard court like a basketball court, smaller than a football pitch, and mainly indoors. It has similarities to five-a-side football and indoor football. Futsal is played between two teams of five players each, one of whom is the goalkeeper. Got it. It's a sport ball. I mean, I figured it was a sport ball, but now I know what kind of sport ball it is. Anyways, second story had a futsal field and a climbing wall. It had been mostly abandoned during the recovery efforts after the Shibuya earthquake. After the quake, people who had lost their family, or who never had any family to begin with, gathered here en masse. Mitake Park, which was right next door, was supposed to be the evacuation point for this area, but Miyashita had always been a mecca for the homeless, so everyone gathered here. When people gathered, so did things. Containers filled with food, blankets, and tents, even the trailer for a motorhome that was left behind when its owner fled Shibuya. Every part of the park was overhauled to create a place for the people to live. The parking lot, the futsal field, the climbing wall, etc. And the next thing anyone knew, there was a society there that was big enough that the government couldn't force them out. Hell yeah. Then some group of idiots came out to try and turn the place into temporary housing. That was shot down in less than a month. As a result, even though you could find beautifully rebuilt skyscrapers just a street away, Miyashita Park became one of Japan's biggest slums.
これいいですか?
I spoke to the man who sold newspapers, magazines, and everything else as I picked up the newspaper with today's date, October the 1st, on it.
お、タク、珍しいな新聞なんて。いいぞ、持ってけ。
いいんですか？
どうせ余るしな。それにほれ。
He showed me the snacks and alcohol at his feet. He must have sold a lot today. There were a lot of people in the park who had enough money that they could have stayed in a capsule hotel if they wanted to.
ああ、してんならできれば別のとこにな。ゴミにうるさくなってるからよ。
I thanked him and went to leave.
おいたく、電気代か。
はい。そうですけど。
ならついでに俺の分も頼む。南のまっちゃんからだっつって渡してくれ。
He handed me a 1,000 yen bill. I nodded, took it, and headed deeper into the park with my paper. Not like $10 for an electric bill? I guess they're probably not using that much electricity. Oh, so his name was Matty? Miyashita Park was divided into north and south halves by a road. If he said he was from the south, that must mean there was a Matty on the north side who I hadn't met yet. The administrative office on the south side. Just like the name implied, it was where all the administration was done for Miyashita Park. It kept things peaceful between the government and the park occupants, resolved disputes between the homeless, and maintained all the facilities in the park. I knew the woman there by her face, but not her name. I gave her the electric bill, which was due on the 1st of the month, along with Maddie's part. Life in the park might seem carefree and lawless from the outside, but it was actually much stricter than you'd find in some families.
はいよ、確かに。はみ出たり、勝手に住み着こうとしているやつは
Everyone who lived on the outer rim of the park, including me since I lived on the far south, had been asked by management to keep an eye out for that.
大丈夫だと思います。
When I'd looked earlier, I hadn't seen anything change around my place.
最近物騒だからね。気をつけなよ。見慣れない奴がいたらすぐに言いな。知ってんだろ？ラブホテルの事件とか。
はい。わかりました。
I was startled, but quickly nodded. I suddenly felt like they were criticizing me for hiding something. The corridor that connected the north and south ends of the park. This place, looking down on Meiji Street, was the one part that hadn't really changed since before the earthquake. There were cracks here and there, but the government had forbidden people to put things here because it would ruin the view, and might not be safe. I leaned up against the rail and spread open the newspaper with the setting sun shining down on me. There was a column on the front page about the Love Hotel incident, but no new information. There was nothing in the article about the girl who was found at the scene, or how this could be related to what happened 6 years ago. Had they not figured that out yet? Or maybe they had, and they just weren't announcing it? If it had something to do with the incident 6 years ago, then so did Don't Look at Me and Leaky Noise. Did that mean they weren't suicides? If the killer had driven them to suicide, then it was probably the same person behind 3 incidents. But was he working alone or part of a group? Or maybe people who were related somehow to the incident 6 years ago were killing themselves one after another? Maybe I should look at what the 3 cases had in common again. Damn it, what the hell? My hand went up to the new bandage on my cheek. I rubbed it several times to make sure that it was still there. I took out my smartphone. The data I'd recorded at the scene had been deleted by the police. I probably should have just counted myself lucky that they didn't take the phone itself. I had lost my biggest clue to the case.
追うべきじゃないってことなのかな。
Maybe this was just out of my league. Maybe it was stupid to get involved. Aww. And then I got a call on my phone. I checked the name and hit the answer button.
はい。もしもし。
お主か。もう来ておるぞ。いつもの席じゃん。
Hello.
どうも。
As always, the waitress's appearance and manners were a mystery to me. I bowed to her and went to my seat. was expecting that aggressive, like, oh. Serica was already there, reading a manga. Squeezing that froggy. She was fiddling with her Garo Froggy cell phone strap without realizing it, as usual. It really was a strange habit, and a nuisance to the people around her. It's not that loud, come on. Cafe Lax. Would it be LAX? That's the airport. Cafe Lax, the preferred hangout of the newspaper club, was just a 10-minute walk from Shibuya Station. The owner was a manga fan, and the walls were lined with the stuff. There was free Wi-Fi, the prices were good, and if it wasn't crowded, you could sit there for hours as long as you bought a single drink. The most important part was that since it was in a hard-to-find spot, barely anybody from Hekiho knew about it. Dude, that, like, actually sounds like a dream come true. I wish my town had one of those. So I didn't have to worry about running into anyone I knew. Oh, what is it? There's like art on the wall. Is that English or is that? I can't tell. It looks like thank, and then louder at the bottom, and then hands. I don't know if that's actually supposed to say something or if it's just scribbles. Or if it's even English. I don't know. As usual, there was barely anyone there. Just a single couple that appeared to be in college. I ordered my usual Mountain View and sat down.
何読んでるんだ？
ああ、タク。そう。なんだろうこれ。
は？
適当に撮ったから。
Serica went and put the manga back on the shelf, and then came and sat back down.
はい、これ制服。のんちゃんから言われてクリーニングしといたから。
悪いな。
I took the bag containing my uniform from Serica. It was the uniform that had gotten covered with blood at the Love Hotel.
今日学校は？
行ってないよ。タクもでしょ？
I nodded. I hadn't felt like it at all.
のんちゃんたちに連絡は？
メールはしといた。
When I got up this morning, I sent both of them a text saying I was okay. They both sent back responses almost immediately, but neither of them said much about what happened. They probably weren't mentioning it for my sake.
で、どうだ？大丈夫か？
うん、まあ。死んでる人を見るのは初めてじゃないし。
Erica spoke in a normal tone of voice as she drank her favorite grapefruit juice. She didn't seem like she was lying. That's how she'd been since she was a kid. It wasn't that she didn't have any feelings, she just got over them very quickly.
タクは？大丈夫？
Now that she asked, I wasn't sure how to answer the question. The waitress brought me my Mountain View. I nodded and took it. I can't tell. I can't get a read on that one. I can't tell if she's grumpy or just. Was I okay?
嘘マジで？それ最低じゃん。
マジ超焦ったっつーの。空気読めっつー話でさ。
I spun the ice in my drink as I listened to the couple's irritating conversation. Serica silently waited for my answer. I knew that face. She'd been my friend since we were kids. There was no point in trying to hide it.
正直言うと迷ってる。
迷ってるって何を？
事件を追うかどうか。
Serica seemed genuinely shocked.
本当に？すいません。グレープフルーツもう一つ。
Serica raised her hand and ordered another drink.
いつものタクだったらチャンスだとか思って突っ走ってない？
That might be true, but things were different this time. After what I'd gone through.
そりゃホテルは怖かったけどさ。
Serica continued, as if she knew exactly what I was thinking.
昔都市伝説とか追っかけてた時もそうだったじゃん。ほら冒険だって言って病院に忍び込んだの覚えてる？
I nodded. I just dreamed about it.
あの時も怖かったけど、この怖さは他の人が経験してないもんなんだ、貴重なんだって泣きながらさ。
お前も泣いてたじゃん、あの時。
そうだっけ？ほれ、残すなよ。どうも。
Serica took her glass of juice and gulped it down.
で？いや、それで？
何が？
Come on.
あ、そっか。だからさ、他の人が経験してないことを手に入れたんだからさ、それが怖かろうがなんだろうがチャンスだってタクなら言うかなって思って。
Her voice was light as she drank her juice, but her words didn't feel light at all. Something other people hadn't experienced. Something different from other people.
たまに頭いいんだか悪いんだかわからなくなるよな。
I stared at Serica's face. How much did she understand about what she was saying?
何？あ、ダメだよ。あげないよ。
She moved the juice away from me. I was wrong. She probably didn't realize anything. Actually, she wasn't even thinking about anything. She really was dumb. That's not a very nice thing to think.
バイトにんなこと言われてもね。
だろ？やる気がないのかって。ねえよ、普通に。
なあ、渋谷地震の被災者のコメントの話ってしたことあったっけ？
何それ？
I was pretty sure I'd told her a bunch of times. Well, whatever. Time for a lecture. Oh no, he's in lecture mode.
地震直後の混乱が収まった後、大量のマスコミが被災者に対して押しかけただろ。まだカオスチャイルド症候群者っていう言葉がなかった頃に。
Of course, I'd been in a coma for about a year after the earthquake, so I'd only investigated it after I woke up.
その取材の論調の多くは民度の高さを訴えるものだった。これだけの震災にもかかわらず、暴動や略奪などの犯罪がほとんど起きていない。これは得難いことなんだって。実際そうなんだと思うよ。何が今一番辛いですかって聞かれた時、大半の被災者が地方の家族に自分の無事を伝えてやれないこととか、子供に好物を与えてやれないこととか、とにかく他人を心配しててさ。でもそんな中で一人の被災者が言ったんだよ。
I remembered what they said word for word. It had left a huge impression on me.
頑張れという部外者。正直うなずいたよ、心底。
They said exactly what I was thinking. I didn't know who they were, but I admired them anyway. Those feelings were the exact opposite of all the excited, fired up people on the outside.
これを言った人は僕に近い人だっていう気がするんだ。ただ一連の出来事をネットで見ていた他人とは違う。そしてただ被災しただけの人とも違う。
タクの両親のこと？あ、そういえば復興祭合わせの飲み、テニサーの連中も来るって。
マジで？そしたら絶対タク飲みじゃ無理じゃん。
I was different. I was different than the people who just lived normal lives in Shibuya. I ripped the bandage off my cheek. The wound had closed up. My face was back to normal. I was back to normal. The case was right in front of me. I had a huge mystery to investigate. I wasn't about to just be caught up in something. As a right-sider, it was my job to jump right into the middle of all this information, right? I could feel something like excitement mixed with a sense of duty welling up inside me. I couldn't stop myself from smiling.
また危険な目に遭うかもしれないぞ。
事件のこと？
I nodded. Serica laughed, a little strangely. And then, for some reason, she patted me lightly on the shoulder. I didn't know what that meant, but I started to laugh too. Serica nodded.
よし、それならまずラブホテルの事件から行こっか。
Serica took out her pocketcom. She typed into it with a practiced hand. She seemed to be loading a video file.
なんだそれ。
これ、現場でタクが撮ってた録画データ。警察に消される前にストレージに上げておいたの。
Hell yeah! Way to go, Serica! She's on the ball. And you called her dumb in your brain. How dare you? By the time I got back home, the sun had long since set, and it was past 8 p.m. I realized that I'd barely eaten anything since arriving at the Love Hotel, and suddenly felt very hungry. Felt very hungry, so I'd eaten a meal at Lax.
そういえば、この間来た時から気になってたんだけど、電気ポット変わった？前はもっと、あ、ここ物置にしたんだ。
Serica had followed me home. She started to glance around the room and offer her opinions on the way it was laid out. She would open drawers and be surprised even though there was nothing important inside, or look at the new files about the cases and tell me their contents at a glance. Better watch out she doesn't find your secret stash. She always was a little strange like that. She would be surprised by the most obvious things, but sometimes she would show startling insight. And wait.
なんかテンション高いな。
She laughed another strange laugh.
事件を追うのが楽しいのか？
というより、ただやりたいことは行けるところまで行かないと気持ち悪いだけ。結果はどうあれ、そうじゃないと意味ないじゃん。人間いつ死ぬかわかんないんだから。せっかく今死んでないのに。
I see, I thought. She was right. There's some wisdom in there, for sure. Sound came from my PC. The copy operation was finished.
よし。そしたら元のストレージのやつは削除してくれ。
なんで？
物が物だからな。他の人間に見られたら困る。
このストレージ、私が個人的に使ってるやつだから大丈夫だよ。
それでもだ。誰でもアクセスできる可能性は少しでも潰しておきたい。そうだな。お前のポケコンのやつも念のため削除してくれ。
オッケー。タク、何してるの
？This one. She looked over me while she rifled through my bookcases. Over at me. She looked over.
カッコン島？どこの島？
Are you serious?
飲み物だよ。ゲンさんにもらった。吐き気を抑える効果があるんだ。
へえ、よく知ってるね。
And then some information I'd found before flashed across my mind. course, it was from Cool Cat Press. Oh god. I'd read about it in a certain special they'd run. If you put eye drops into a beer, it will make a girl feel really aroused. I don't like where this is. I don't like where this is going. I don't like where this is going. I don't know the route this is taking. At the time, I hadn't believed it. In another issue, they'd said that that eye drops in cola would make a girl go to sleep. I really don't like where this one's going. Can I go back? Can I undo? Adding eye drops into a drink would create unusual side effects. I'd heard a rumor that it was just an urban legend, though. Why was this in a magazine, also? What kind of psycho wrote that article? What would happen if you put eye drops into Kakonto? There was a stupid teenage girl who didn't even know what Kakonto was right in front of me. Should I try it? No. Oh my god. I died that one. I prepared to. This is the correct music for this, by the way. This is sinister. I don't like it. Prepared 2 cups like it was the most natural thing in the world and poured out the Kakonto I'd made. I don't know how to pronounce that word. Then, taking special care that Serica wouldn't see me, I added a few drops of eye drop medicine from my shelf into her drink. I forgot what I forgot what I have to do for some of these. Like for some of these, they get to a point where I literally just have to remove my conscience and put it over here for a moment. So, just gonna put this to the side. I'll collect it later. Conscience removed. I gave her the cup, acting very naturally. She took a drink without suspecting a thing. I gulped as I watched her.
何？どうかした？
いや。
これまずい。薬みたい。
漢方薬だからな。
With added eye drops, to be precise. I decided to watch and see what happened.
っていうか、なんだか。
ん？
この部屋、暑くない？
Serica's cheeks seemed a little pink. And she seemed to be kind of spacing out. Was it starting to work already? I didn't expect it to work so fast.
ねえ、タク。なんか私、すっごく変な感じなんだけど。
Her breathing was getting shallower. She was fidgeting and rubbing her thighs together. Oh my god. She was clearly behaving differently than she usually did. Way to go, Cool Cat Press.
ちょっとトイレ借りる。
トイレ？何する気だ？
それは内緒。
内緒ってお前大丈夫なのか？なあ、トイレで何をするつもりだよ。
いけないことだよ。
は？
言わせないでよ、バカ。
そうか。
I gulped.
別にトイレ行くのはいいけど、あんまり長いこと入ってるんじゃないぞ。
別にトイレ行きたくないけど。
Alright, conscious returned. Oh my god. Oh, it's too much, man. Alright. Serica was looking at me surprised. Her cheeks weren't flushed, and her expression was normal.
どうしたの急に。
いや、別に。
I desperately tried to recover as I drank my own Kakonto. I hadn't found any eye drops on the shelf, so I'd given up on the experiment. Okay. I kind of hope that he just not even considered it. Just keep that in your imagination, but no, they just couldn't find him. Okay, that's cool. Yeah. Serica complained about the taste, but swallowed it down anyway.
それにしてもゲンさんいい人だよね。好きだな私。
酒癖の悪さはどうにかしてほしいけどな。
でもタクが公園で気許してるのってゲンさんだけでしょ。やっぱりいい人だよ。
Was that why? Well, he did help me out a lot.
オッケー、削除したよ。
Serica put away her Pokécall. Alright. I booted up the laptop next to the wall and sat down in the chair that folded out into a bed. As I went to load the video file into the player software, I happened to glance at its length.
26分? そんなにあの部屋にいたか?
Oh, Serica said.
違うと思う。あの時タクが気を失ってすぐに警察が駆けつけて、で私も気持ち悪くて吐いちゃってたんだけど、いつの間にかタクが落としたスマホを自分のポケットに入れてて、それで警察に連れてかれるパトカーの中でスマホのことに気づいて、そこで私が録画ボタンを止めたから。
So that was it. Come to think of it, I hadn't asked how it happened.
よく警察に消される前にストレージにあげる暇があったな。
Serica nodded, as if she felt the same way.
たまたまだよ。警察に着いた時にまた気持ち悪くなっちゃってトイレに駆け込んで、そこであって思いついたの。
いや、すごいと思う。
She's good. She is good. I really was. I'd passed out in the hotel, and the next thing I knew, I was at the station. Supposedly, I'd walked from the patrol car to my room, but my memory was vague and hazy. I took a big sip from the cup to choke down the urge to vomit and slowly let it sink into my stomach. If the recording was successful, then I should see what I'd seen then. It had happened 2 days ago, but it had left such a strong impression on me that it didn't feel like that much time had passed at all. I took a deep breath and told myself it was time to do this. I looked over at Serica. She nodded back at me and glared at the monitor. Okay. I tried to steady my slightly shaking finger as I clicked the file. The first thing I noticed was that sound. The peaceful sound of the music box that filled the room from the spinning bed. A dark, gloomy room, a curtain in the back, and a rotating bed behind it. It was that room. The same emotions I'd experienced before came flooding back to me through the blurry screen. I could sense my own hesitation from my gasping breaths. Serica grabbed my shoulder at the sudden sound.
大丈夫。確か僕が床を踏み鳴らしたんだ。
そっか。
The camera was slowly moving toward the back of the room. At some point, my breathing matched the breathing in the recording. It scared me, so I pulled away a little and took a deep breath to isolate myself from the person in the video. I heard that sound. The sound of the wire creaking as the bed spun. I could feel the panic coming through the screen. I wasn't sure what to do.
進むぞ。
I could tell that Serica was gulping a little. As I spoke, the camera kept going forward. I could hear Serica's soft gasp in the video. The police officer and that woman were lying on the floor. I hadn't realized it at the time, but the glass was scattered all around. The camera quickly panned without warning. It was that bed. The silhouette behind the curtain was probably that man. The angle was off and wasn't pointing directly at the bed. At that point, I hadn't really been aware of the smartphone. I heard a dull thud and the screen went black.
落としたのかな?
多分
It felt like I'd tripped and fallen backwards. The phone had probably fallen from my hands. Was it black because the camera had fallen face down? Serika's voice sounded like it was a little... Serika's voice sounded like it was a little far away. It was still picking up sound, evidently. I could hear myself trying to open the door and swearing when I failed. That's right. I'd been fighting with the door then. And then... My body shivered as if it had gone numb. This was... I could hear it.
聞こえたよな
I could hear it. The police said the surveillance cameras hadn't shown anyone else coming into the room, but I could hear it. That constant rhythmic knocking. Somehow, it made me feel uneasy and scared. Someone had been on the other side of that door. And suddenly, the screen moved. It was showing the man on the bed. The screen was blurry, but the man was almost exactly in the center of the viewfinder. Had I picked up the smartphone? I couldn't remember. In the video, I ignored Serika's voice and kept pointing the camera at the man. I could hear my own rough breathing, and I remembered how I'd felt then. Oh, God. Then suddenly I heard a snap to hat. Ah. The screen moved violently for a second, and then for a moment it showed the girl. Then the angle changed again and it stopped moving. The screen was covered in blood, but in red blood. You know, as opposed to blue blood or purple blood. Yellow blood. What I was looking at was probably the room's ceiling. Since it didn't move at all, this was probably where I'd passed out and dropped it. Just like before, the camera was still recording the sound. I could hear Serika vomiting, and what sounded like somebody falling over. It caught the police officers running into the room. They were asking Serika what was going on. She was probably the only one there who was still conscious. Shortly after, the screen went black. Serika had probably put the phone into her pocket, just like she'd said. I could hear an irritating noise that must have been the sound of the phone scraping against the skirt's fabric. The screen stayed black, but it kept picking up the nearby sound. Then, at the very end, there was a quick shot of the inside of a patrol car. I realized that at some point I'd leaned my body toward the screen. I sat back in my chair. I'd known what was going to happen, but this was still hard. To be honest, I was lucky that the phone was dropped a lot and it wasn't clearly I was lucky that the phone was dropped and a lot of it wasn't clearly recorded. I didn't feel as much of an urge to vomit as I'd expected, but I was still sweating from a nasty, unpleasant feeling. I gulped down the last bit of liquid in my cup.
尾上、大丈夫か?
I asked Serika. And then...
タク、最後のとこ、何か変なの映ってなかった？
Huh?
何?
Weird. The whole thing was weird. Not a second of it was normal.
部屋の奥に進んでからさ。
Serika moved the mouse to jump backwards in the video. I couldn't tell whether she was tough or simply dense, or maybe she just felt like it was nothing but a video, but she advanced through the shocking scenes with no hesitation.
これこれ、窓の外。
ああ
See anything? It's too bright. I could see the wall of the Love Hotel across the street from the open window. There was something there.
なんだ
It's very white. The
虫か
curtain?
な。
こんなでかい虫がいたらクルスが建物ごと爆破しに来るぞ。
I do not see what they're seeing. She hated bugs.
じゃあ、いたずら書き？
Why was her first answer a bug and her second answer the sensible one?
いや、ちょっと待って。なんかどっかで。
They're not talking about the curtain, right? Like, the curtain is a curtain. Am I blind? I literally... Okay. I switched from my player software to my editing software, and then blew up that part of the screen. Damn it. I could make it out, but it was so far away that it was blurry. The resolution was too low. I do not even see what there's like a slightly darker, like, crescent-ish. Like a I don't know, like a sideways crescent moon. It's like slightly darker white. It's is that what they're talking about? It does kind of look like a bug, I suppose. Like a long, like a leech. It kind of looks like a leech.
違うって。やっぱり
I don't see wings.
なんかどっかで見た気が。
What the? Okay. Just gonna let this play out. What? He turned around at the loud noise.
ようただいま帰った。
Hello.
待たせて悪かったな。
There was a drunk man with a bottle of booze in his hand. Is this Gen? Give me a break. Of course, no one was waiting.
もっと静かに入ってきてよ。
おお、ゲンさん。この前はありがとね。
この前。
ラブホテルの事件のこと教えてくれたじゃん。
おお、そうだったか。まあどうでもいい。事件かよかったな。タクは新聞記者になりたいんだからな。
I love this top hat. I'm a sucker for a top hat, alright? Doesn't matter who's wearing it. I didn't, really. Every day I supposedly wanted to be a different thing. Last time it was a movie director.
ようはただいま帰ったぞ。なあタク、よく聞け。世が世であるために今日はこんなものを手に入れてきた。どこだ?
He started patting down the pockets of his very old coat. This annoying old man was Gen. He was the elder ruler of this park, and the CEO of a company with a 3 billion yen a year salary, and the best friend of my father, Jiro. At least, according to him. My dad's name wasn't even Jiro. He was related to a clan of foreign nobles, and so if he ever needed to, he could summon a foreign special forces team to do his bidding. Except last week. His bed had been taken over by a stray dog, and he'd had to come stay with me.
ねえぞ。世の一番大事なものもねえじゃねえか。やべえぞ。証明できねえ。
Oh no.
ちょっとゲンさん、ズボン脱がないでよ。
What the hell is happening? Gen was always loud when he got drunk, and when he got really drunk, he was louder. Today, he wasn't very drunk. I had no idea what he was like when he was sober. I'd never seen it happen, or heard of it happening. Sometimes, or often actually, at least once a week, he would come by my room drunk, talk for a while, then leave to search the park for more alcohol.
あったぞ嬢ちゃん。あった。ほれ見ろ。見ない。
絶対見ない。
Oh my lord. He was obnoxious as hell, to put it mildly, but I couldn't chase him away. Actually, I couldn't complain about him much at all. When I'd left the dorm half a year ago, I had ended up in the bottom half of Miyashita Park. Since the upper half kept the rain off, the bottom half was one of the most popular spots. A lot of the reason I was able to get to this spot, and even get this motorhome, was because of Gen. When he's just ignoring it and expositioning. When I lived in the dorm, I'd done some cooking for the homeless in Miyashita Park as part of our volunteer activities. Gen had remembered that. "A nobleman does not forget his debts," was all he said. And then somehow, I'd been given this place. He was also the one who taught me how to get by in this place.
そうだタク、これ見ろ。買わねえか。
Gen took something out of his pocket. Not here! Not here! Not now! I ripped the copy of my favorite magazine out of his hands. I quickly glanced over to Serika. She was mumbling that over and over to herself. I thought she liked him. Good, she didn't see it. I breathed a sigh of relief and hid it someplace nearby. Gen raised a single finger. This was one rule, for example. It was the first thing I'd learned in the park. The homeless would never, ever ask you for money. It was the one thing they could never say. Money was either found lying on the ground or earned by working or selling things. It wasn't something other people gave you. I took out a 100 yen coin from my wallet and gave it to him. Gen grabbed it and put it in his pocket like he didn't really care.
おお、最近よく見んな、それ。
He was looking at the PC monitor as he spoke. For a moment, I didn't know what he meant.
Huh?
I also don't know what you mean. My eyes met Serika's for just a moment. The monitor was still displaying the blurry, blown-up image. He saw it a lot?
ちょっとゲンさん、
これ知ってるの？
野球してえな。
He was in his own little world. What was this guy's problem? He's drunk. He's inebriated. I got closer to him.
ゲンさん、これ見たことあるの？
ああ、なもんお前どこにでもあんだろうよ。これ例えば駅前の駅前って誰だ？
Oh my god.
は？駅前って駅前なんでしょ？渋谷の駅前の。
だからほれつうかタク、おめえ前に見せてくれたやつにも映ってんだろ。
Huh?
俺何年前だったか、おめえがカラオケに張り込んでなんかを初めて抑えたとかっつってよ。
That was last weekend, actually. When I'd been uploading the photos of the crime scene I took from the karaoke box, Gen had come by and seen them. This was it. It was an image of the karaoke box I'd hidden in to take pictures of the crime scene. It was on the 5th floor. I could see the same mark. I switched from the player software to the editor software, just like before, and magnified that part of the image. The bug? And then I realized what it was. That's right. I'd seen this thing before. Just like Gen said, it was something you could find all over Shibuya. Something that had been there for a very long time. Oh, it's the
shield.
Ugh, God, it really does look creepy. Huh. As I saw the club room for the first time in 3 days, I was stunned.
いや、努力はしたんだよ。
I'd been waiting all morning to tell Ito the big discovery I'd made yesterday. I'd stayed up almost all night finding all the information I could on it, and then forced myself to wait until school ended to tell him. I figured that just sending pictures to his phone or trying to explain it in words would just confuse him. I wanted to stand in front of the board in the club room with all the information we'd learned so far pinned up on it and use the club time to really work through it. But there was nothing there at all. I could only think of one person who would do that.
クルスか。
昨日の帰り際な。危なすぎるから絶対にダメだって言って。
Was it because of what had happened in the Love Hotel? In as angry a voice I could muster, I said,
どうして止めてくれなかったんだよ。
だから努力はしたんだよ。黙りなさいって言われて黙ったけど。
Like, why didn't you stop her? I don't know, I value my life?
そこをなんとかしてさ。
無理言うなよ。お前ならなんとかできたのか？
無理言うなよ。
Ito shrugged as if to say, see? Just imagining it scared me a little. Doing something about Kurisu was absolutely impossible. No one in Hekiho was capable of such a thing. I pointed to the PC on the desk.
データは？
ハードディスクごと叩き壊されなかっただけ運が良かったんじゃないか？
So the data was gone too. Ito was probably joking, but if Kurisu thought she needed to do it, she would have.
小野江、さっきから何プリントアウトして。
はい、これ。
Sarika dropped a stack of papers on the desk. I looked down and saw that it was images and articles about the case. Are we rebuilding? It was the ones that were uploaded to the newspaper club server.
どうしたんだこれ。
状況たるもの、データのバックアップは常に取れってタクいつも言ってるじゃん。
Dude, he calls you.
タクだって取ってるでしょ？
He says she's dumb. She's like the lifeline. She's the lifeline of the newspaper club. She's on point. Well, yes, but Sarika flipped through the papers.
ポケコンからだとなぜか画質が少し落ちるんだよね。サーバーにもう一回上げ直して。
ちょっと待った。
Sarika went to stretch a cable from her Pokécom to the PC, but I quickly stopped her.
画質これでいいの？
そうじゃなくて、いや画質はこれでいいんだけど、サーバーに上げるのはちょっと待ってくれ。
Gotta keep the investigation on the hush-hush. I glanced at Ito as I spoke. The newspaper club server could be accessed from any PC in the school as long as you knew the password. Kurisu was spending her time at the student council getting ready for the culture festival. There was a chance she might look at the server for some reason. Ito nodded in agreement, a serious look on his face.
二人とものんちゃんのことを怖がりすぎだよ。のんちゃん優しいよ。ねえ、花ちゃん。ほらね。
See what? Was Kazuki agreeing? She was pounding down on the keyboard and mouse really hard.
そりゃ尾上や和樹は副部長に可愛がられてるけどさ。
渋谷のクレープ屋台一緒にコンプリートしたんだよ。のんちゃん甘いものに詳しいんだ。
Sarika puffed out her chest, very proud of this information. I didn't care in the slightest.
それにどっちみちのんちゃんにはバレると思うよ。
That was probably true, yeah. If we kept following the case as a part of our work in the newspaper club, Kurisu was smart enough to catch on.
大丈夫だよ。話せば分かってくれるよ。
I simulated a variety of situations in my mind. Well, let's think positive, shall we? Let's think positive. Kurusu loved sweets. This was something that Serica had said, and that I'd known about too. So would buying her something she liked from a famous sweet shop be enough to win her over? Would bribery work on someone as prim and proper as the student council president? It was worth a try. Alright. Mental simulation. Activate. Unless we could win her over, we weren't going to be able to continue with the case.
よし、これから賄賂を買いに行こ
う。Why is he talking like that?
尾上、クルスが好きなスイーツ店の上位3つを教えてくれ。
オッケー。買いに行くなら私も行きたい。
She was clearly intending to buy something for herself. Well, that was fine. It was time for the mission to begin.
というわけで、これ、クルスにプレゼント。
Why is he talking like that? I knew that Kurusu was staying late after school to get ready for the festival. I handed her the present. Now I'm talking like it too. I handed her the present I just bought. Serica had told me about a pancake place near Shibuya Station. It was a popular store where there was always a line of girls outside. I heard it was one of the few places you could go to get pancakes for carryout, so I quickly chose it. Standing in line with the girls for an hour was almost torture, but I somehow managed to do it.
これって X サンクスのパンケーキ？
X thanks.
そうだけど。
If he's gonna do that voice, I'm doing it too.
あそこいつも並んでいるからなかなか手に入らないのに。
Her eyes were shining like a little girl's. It wasn't an expression I was used to seeing from her.
私にくれるの？本当に？
I just feel like I can't do that without like putting my hand like doing like a hero pose or something.
いつも迷惑かけてるし。
タクルがこういうプレゼントをくれるなんて珍しいね。ありがとう。すごく嬉しい。
あ、うん。
After seeing how happy she was, I couldn't tell her that I was trying to bribe her. Well then, what was the point of this?
あれ？おかしいな。
え、なんで？
Why was she crying?
ごめんね。こんな幸せあるんだなって思って。変だよね。こんなことで泣いちゃうなんて。でも本当に嬉しかったの。ありがとうね、タクル。よかったら半分こしない？いいでしょ？
Well, that was pointless. I was satisfied with the results of my simulation. It accomplished nothing in regards to the goal, but you know, it was fun. This might work. What do you mean this might work? You did? Okay. I'm thinking too hard.
わかった。
いいのか?
Ito must have been really surprised by my answer, because he badly overreacted.
お前はそんなに勇敢なやつだったか?
やるときはやるんだよ。ただ、サーバーに上げるのは待ってくれ。慎重を期したい。
オッケ
ー。オッケー。
それから、とりあえず今はボードに情報を貼り付けるけれど、まとめ終わったら一旦剥がそう。ことは簡単じゃないんだ。
オッケ
ー。She's the best. I love this. That's so cute.
それから事件のことに関してはとりあえずクルスに秘密にしよう。それでほとぼりが冷めるまで様子を見つつクルスが甘いものでも食べて機嫌がいい時に切り出すんだ。
オッケ
ー。じゃねえだろ。ただのヘタレじゃねえか。
Wow. What?
ヘタレじゃない。もっとも成功率の高い方法を弾き出したらこうなるんだ。それをヘタレと呼ぶのはヘタレの定義として。
はいはい、わかったわかった。ほら尾上、地図貼るからそっち持て。
I want that to be my notification sound from now on. Ito and Serica took out the big map we used for the board.
説得を考えたらこれが一番確実なんだ。
Okay. He didn't get it at all. There's no way I could persuade Kurisu if I tried to go after her head on.
というか宮代、マジな話だけどさ。
He had a very serious tone in his voice as he hung up the top of the map. Huh? I'd been serious the whole time.
その大丈夫なのか、事件を追って。
だからいずれ説得する。ヘタレじゃないぞ、慎重なんだぞ。
じゃなくて、お前よっぽどのもん見たんだろ。そのラブホテルで。
Serica froze midway through the process of taping down the bottom of the map. So that was it. I hadn't told Ito about anything about the Love Hotel. Hadn't told him about what I'd seen or experienced there. I tried my best to give him a cheerful smile.
大丈夫だよ、問題ない。こんな大きなネタほっとけないだろ。
Ito didn't answer. He stared at me as if trying to figure me out. And then he relaxed and laughed a little.
まあ、電話の時点でそうじゃないかとは思ってたけどな。
He was probably talking about the call I'd made yesterday. After I'd made my discovery, I had called Ito and asked him to find all the information he could about the Love Hotel case. It had already been 3 days since it happened. I hadn't been really following it at all, so I'd asked Ito to put together what he could find.
はい、いいよ。
Serica finished pinning the map to the board. Okay, let's get started. It was a brand new map of Shibuya. Detailed map, 2015, latest. We'd had to put it up from scratch again, but now that I looked at it, maybe that wasn't such a bad thing. I had made a huge discovery which could impact the whole case. It was a good idea to start over from the beginning.
まず6年前の事件と日付の関連性があるという前提で進めよう。つまり今まで起きた3つの事件を一連のこととして考える。目的や犯人がいるとしたら、その正体はともかくとしてな。
ああ、3つ続いた以上はそうだろう。そうじゃなかったらまたその時考えればいい。
よし、場所から行くか。1件目の事件、通称こっちみんなは鎮南で起こったから。で、その遺体の画像が。
Oh, am I? Oh, hello. Is this guy? This unfortunate soul. Man, I wish I could read that. It's so small.
ちなみに同じ日付の6年前の事件は集団ダイブだから。
Be this one. Many unfortunate souls.
その概要が。1件目はこんなもんだな。
All these lines are getting
じゃあ2件目
confusing
に
real
行
quick.
こう。通称音漏れ炭は深センで起こったから。で、その遺体の画像が。
That would be this one. It's a little pop quiz, a little
そ
interaction.
の概要が。ちなみに同じ日付の6年前の事件は
I get to show that I'm paying attention.
妊娠男だから。
We don't talk about pregnant man. We don't talk about pregnant man. That's not true. Whenever it comes up, I cannot stop talking about pregnant man. It has truly, like, permeated my nightmares forever and always.
よし、じゃあ最後にラブホの事件だ。場所は道玄坂のラブホ街だから。で、概要だけど。
I looked at Ito, and I could see that he was nervous. He was worried, but at the same time a little excited.
どうした？大丈夫か？
いや、そうだな。まずは伊藤がまとめてきたのを見せてくれるか？世間ではどういう認識になっているのかを知りたい。発表されていた名前は見たけど。
わかった。ちょっと待ってな。
Ito got out his own Pocketcom and started to fiddle with it. He linked to the printer over the network and printed out the files. Print out his files. Wait.
やっぱサーバーにはあげないんじゃんか。
当たり前だ。殴られるのは嫌だ。
だから怖がりすぎだってば。
I skimmed the printout that Ito made for me. After all the cases we'd researched together, he knew how to summarize information into a single page like a pro. Ito read from his own printout.
名前が発表されたのは昨日の夜だ。死んだのは柿田博則22歳。渋谷在住で更新でアルバイトしていたらしい。
更新？
なんで知らないんだ？景気のいいベンチャー企業だよ。
They had been making a lot of money lately off of the Shibuya reconstruction.
渋谷ニュースの情報通り、20代の男性だ。
さすが。そこはチェックしてるか。
That was about the only thing I could do, Ito said as he nodded.
つーか、20代って言及したのは事件のあった日のネトラジ放送だぞ。まだその段階ではどの媒体も男性の変死体が発見されたとしか発表してなかったのに。ったくどうやって調べてるんだか。
I couldn't agree more. How did Kay do her research?
死因は首吊りによる窒息死。地上のもつれからの自殺と断定された。
Due to hanging. I don't know if I would consider that hanging.
え？
A suicide? Over a fight with a lover?
自殺と断定されたのか？
ああ、警察はそう発表した。あと出ている情報といえば、まあ死んだ柿田が優秀だったってことくらいか。出来高のアルバイトで驚くほど稼いでいたらしい。
地上のもつれって、その相手は？あ、いや、地上っていうなら交際していた相手がいたはずだろ。
ああ、なるほどな。
Ito looked through a bunch of files on his Pocketcom.
いや、それに関しては何もないな。
目撃者は？
発見したのはホテルの従業員だけど、それ以外には何も。もちろんお前らのことも出てない。
What was going on? So they hadn't said anything about the other girl at the scene?
タク。
Sarika was staring at me, confused. She was probably thinking the same thing. I could understand why there wasn't any information about us. The police had said there wouldn't be, and to be honest, we were just gawkers. There was no real point in telling anyone we were there. But that girl clearly seemed to be involved in the case. If they said he got into a fight with his girlfriend, then it didn't make sense not to report the girl who was there.
未成年による配慮？
I wasn't sure, but she had looked young. She definitely wasn't older than 19. No, even then, they'd say something. Whenever there was a problem with someone dating underage girls, they never reported the girl's name, but they always reported her existence.
どうした？
説明する。
I pinned up the information that Ito had given me.
ラブホの事件の遺体の仮装は
これは
ラブホの現場で撮った画像だ。
は撮ったのか？
Yeah, I would not call that a hanging, by the way. Like, that's like hanging evolved. Ito almost jumped on me in shock. I nodded.
正確には録画した映像を切り取ってプリントアウトしたやつだ。警察に消される前に尾上が個人のストレージに上げておいてくれた。
マジかよ。やばいだろこれ。どこにも出てねえぞ。
Ito put his face up to the picture in excitement.
なんだ？座ったまま首を。ワイヤーかこれ。
He mumbled to himself as he stared at it, trying to memorize every last detail.
なんだよこれ。おい、一体何があったんだ
？As I listened to Ito speak excitedly, I looked toward Serica. I wasn't sure why I was looking at her. But she nodded as if she understood. I nodded back. The police had told us not to tell anyone, but I didn't care. Yeah, we're pretty past that, I think. I slowly started to explain what had happened to Ito. How he'd made it into the Love Hotel undetected. How the room we'd seen from the outside was where we found the body. How we'd gone inside and found the police officer lying on the floor. How the body in the photo was sitting on a spinning bed and slowly rotating. And how there'd been another girl there, and how someone had tried to enter the room. But I didn't tell him how the door had unlocked itself. The police had told me I'd imagined it, and they'd made me realize I had no proof. Between my curiosity and my fear, I had been a mess at the time anyway. And more than anything, without any kind of proof, I wasn't sure it had happened at all. When I finished, Ito's questions were the same as mine had been.
現場にいた女に部屋に入ろうとしていた誰か。でも、その女はともかく誰かが部屋に入ろうとしていた形跡はなかったんだろ？
That was right. That was what the police had told me. But
ノックの音が聞こえたんだ。それは映像にも音声として残ってる。
音だろ？誰かがドアの向こうにいてドアを叩いたという証明じゃない。
いや、理屈で考えればそうだけど、それに確かにあれは誰かがドアを。
Ito cut me off, clearly irritated.
理屈で考えればって一番らしくない言葉だぞ。理屈のみで考えなければいけないってのが理屈バカのお前だろう。
He's not wrong. Don't call me an idiot. I just prefer to cover all my bases.
はっきりしてるところから行こうぜ。だろ？
Damn it. You could only say that because he hadn't heard it in person. That strange, eerie sound which hung in the depths of your ears and wouldn't let go. But that was true.
その通りといえばそうなんだよな。
I hadn't seen for myself someone trying to enter the room. Maybe he took my silence as agreement.
で、現場にいた女か。あ、だから交際相手を気にしてたのか。
女っていうより女の子かな。
Huh?
女の子？
あの子きっとそんなに私と年変わらないよ。それに上ってこともないと思う。同じか 1,2 個下くらいじゃない？
そうかな。
I wasn't sure, but if Serica said so, she was probably right. Serica never had any evidence or proof for her statements, but she was often correct.
でも、その女の子のことに触れている情報はなかったんだろう。
Her intuition stat is off the charts. I looked back at Ito to check.
ああ、ゴシップ誌から新聞社の正式な発表、まとめウィキまで全部覗いたけど、そんな情報はなかった。
I see.
だとすればやっぱりこっちから追うしかないか。
I flipped through the remaining papers.
別の手がかりがあるのか？
映像を見返して気づいたことがあるんだ。ちゃんとした理屈だ。なんせちゃんとした証拠があるからな。
小さい男だな。
Say what you like. It was finally time to tell Ito what I'd found. I'm pretty sure Serica's the one who found it.
昨日作った
Just
綺麗に写って
saying.
る例のシールの画像はこれなんだかわかるか？
Ito looked at the picture for a moment, uncertain.
見覚えあるな。なんだっけな。
He used his pocket comm to run a search.
そう、力士シールだろ。
うん、そう呼ばれてる。何の目的で貼られてるかわからない謎のシール。期限は諸説あるけど、ネットで騒がれ出したのは2007年頃。
At one point, they were famous enough that the TV stations were reporting on them, but after the 2009 Shibuya quake, everyone stopped talking about them. The city where the stickers were going up had been destroyed. People had bigger things to talk about. But starting sometime last year, they'd started to appear in Shibuya again.
目的はいろいろ噂されてる。単なるいたずら説はもちろんだけど、タギング説とか宗教による結界説だとか。変わったとこだと本当に力士の人が自分の顔を貼っている説ってのもある。でもこれは違うと僕は思っていて、そもそも力士シールなんて呼ばれてはいるけれど、それは単に太っている顔だからっていうだけの理由で誰かがそう言い出したことで、力士をモデルにしたなんてことは確たる証拠として。
ちょっとストップ。
Ito cut me off just as I was getting started. Come on, man, it was just about to get good.
いや、それが何だっつんだ？そのシールと事件と何か関係あんのか？
わからない。
は？
まだわからないんだ。でもな、こっちみんなの現場付近にあった力士シールは
The scene of Don't Look at Me was this one. It was this one.
この前お前に見せた画像を拡大したやつ。こっちみんなの現場を撮りに僕がいたカラオケボックスの外壁部分。
力士シールか？
うん、多少ぼやけてるけど間違いない。
おい、まさか。
ああ、ラブホの現場にもあったんだよ。やっぱり現場が見える位置に。
じゃああれか、音漏れたんもか？
いや、それもまだわからない。昨日調べたんだけど、少なくとも今まで撮った現場周りの画像には映ってなかった。でも2つ続いた偶然にかけてみるのはありだって今回証明されただろ。
Ito fell silent, as if he was thinking about something. Oh, I was hoping he'd be a little more surprised. But I guess that's the best I could expect. Or maybe there was too much new information coming in at once for him to keep up.
ちなみにラブホテルの事件と同じ日付の6年前の事件は貼り付けだから。
Crucified.
で、その概要が今のところ日付はともかく事件の内容に関しては6年前とそこまでリンクしてないように思える。集団ダイブと同じ日付のこっちみんなは被害者は一人だし、それにまだ自殺と決まっているわけではないし、妊娠男と同じ日付のおともれたんは腹部に異物を埋め込んだっていう点は一緒だけど、そもそも被害者は女性だ。 貼り付けとラブホの事件は目立った共通点は見つからない。だから他に事件を追う線がない以上、歴史シールからもう一度事件を探ってみるのもありだと思う。
But maybe I was overthinking this, but there was no telling what else would be related to the case. Just in case, I decided to put up the data on the other new generation incidents from 6 years ago. October 10th, vampire error. October 23rd, brain dead. October 28th, yummy hand. November 4th, the Dokun puzzle. Yeah, that should do it. I looked at the board and nodded in satisfaction.
現状の情報の整理はこんなものか。
コーヒー飲む人。
As I finished going over the information, Serica got some cups ready. Oh no. Kazuki, who had been ignoring the conversation until now, suddenly stood up. She grabbed the cups from Serica with a speed you'd never believe she possessed.
いいよ、花ちゃん。いつもお茶組やってくれてるでしょ。
Kazuki shook her head rapidly from left to right and then motioned for Serica to sit down. Good work.
おのえ、大丈夫だって。せっかく用意してくれるんだから。
Does Serica just make really bad coffee? Is that what's happening? I practically forced Serica to sit down in her chair. Like,
でも。
no, there was no way I was letting Serica do any kind of cooking. Ah. How bad was she? She was so bad that I couldn't let her make coffee. She was so bad that she'd once asked me what kind of dish soap you used to wash the vegetables. Oh. I breathed a sigh of relief as she reluctantly sat down. Even Kazuki was relieved enough that you could actually tell what she was feeling for once. She started to make coffee. I turned around to see if Ito needed any. He was still thinking. He must have been thinking hard. He didn't even seem to notice that Serica was making coffee, which normally would have been cause for panic. I decided for now to put the coffee that Kazuki had made in front of him. He seemed to understand the situation and stretched out his hand.
な、そのホテルの現場で録画した映像ってまだ残ってるんだろ？
まあな、僕のポケコンとスマホに入ってる。それ以外は危ないから削除したけど。
Ito glared at my Pokécom for a moment and then turned toward me.
見せてくれ。
I wasn't sure what to do. He must have been able to sense my uncertainty.
警察から口止めされてるのか？
いや、でも気にしてるのはそこじゃない。だいたいお前にはもう何があったか喋ってるし。そうじゃなくて、なんていうか、これを見ちゃうと。
In a TV show or a movie, this is where the hero would say, "There's no going back." Undergoing a shocking event changed the way you felt about the rest of your life. When you learned a hidden secret, it changed you. Just like when I'd learned about my parents.
こうだろ。見せてくれ。
Ito saw that I was hesitating and cut me off.
お前らは直接見てきたもんなんだろ。俺も見ておきたい。
It didn't seem like he was going to change his mind.
わかった。
じゃあ PC モニターで見ようよ。大きい方が見やすいでしょ。
Oh my god, I just waiting for Kurusu to walk in as the video's playing. Serica, the only person who didn't seem to understand the gravity of the situation, spoke up. Or maybe she just didn't think it was important.
しんちゃんは部員だよ。見ないと。
だな。
Ito smiled, as if he'd just relaxed a little. He brought his hands up to his cheeks and gave them a slap to psych himself up.
よし。じゃあ一時的にデスクトップにコピーしよう。今ブラウザ閉じて。
And then he froze.
おい。
やばい。 おい、見ろ、これ。
Ito pointed to the monitor, his voice shaking. Serica and I hurried behind him to see what he was looking at, and gulped.
何この動画。
わかんねえ。今、いきなりまとめウィキに貼られた。
The curtains opened and the man appeared. There was no mistaking it. It was that room in the Love Hotel. The man must have been Kakita. I couldn't see her face, but was that the girl? It had to be. Her clothes matched what I remembered.
おい。おい。
Oh no. Oh god. Ew. The head. The bed spun around and the wire dug into Kakita's neck. There was no sound in the video, but I could hear the sound of the wire in the music box in my mind. Kakita's face took on a color very similar to what I'd seen in person, and the footage ended.
おい。なんだよこれ。マジかよ。おい、宮代！
I almost jumped off the ground.
あ、ごめん。なんだこれ！お前が撮ったのか？
Ito yelled at me hysterically. I quickly shook my head.
そんなわけないだろ。僕は部屋の中にいたんだ。じゃあなんだよこれ。知らないって僕にわかるわけ。
Serica's hand suddenly stretched out.
なんだよ。
ストップ。落ち着こう。タク、しんちゃん。喧嘩はダメだよ。
I like to think she grabbed them both by the cuffs of their shirts and just pulled them apart. Oh no. She grabbed us both by the cheek and pinched hard. Equally effective. Ow! Ow!
痛いって。
落ち着いた？もう怒鳴らない？喧嘩しない？
This is really painful. Please stop. Let go of my cheek. Ito and I nodded, and Serica let go.
何すんだ。
だって二人とも怒鳴るんだもん。
だからってお前な。
Ito rubbed his cheek and gave Serica an angry glare. She must have grabbed him really hard, because I could see a red mark forming in the shape of her hand. Did that mean I had one of those too?
喧嘩はダメ。今にも殴りかかりそうだったよ。
Serica repeated. She didn't seem to think she'd done anything wrong at all. No, maybe she hadn't. Kazuki gave Serica a thumbs up. Serica gave her a satisfied thumbs up in return. I didn't get it.
あれだな。将来友達を叩いちゃいけませんって言いながら自分の子供を叩くタイプだな。
Ito's words impressed me. It was one of the most accurate predictions I'd heard in years. Serica frowned and said she'd never do that.
ねえ、なんだろうね、これ。
He pointed to the monitor. He didn't seem too bothered by it. He must have been used to seeing gory videos because he looked pretty calm. I rubbed my cheek as I looked on.
外から撮影したものだよな。
あの現場に間違いないのか？
I nodded, a little uncertain.
多分遺体の状況もあのままだったと思う。
くそ、なんなんだ？
ねえ、保存しておいた方がよくない？
ああ、そうだな。こんなもんいつ消されるかわかんねえ。
Oh, I didn't read that one. That was enough to bring Ito back to his senses. He saved the file to the PC with a slightly more unsteady hand than usual. Kazuki was still playing her game, but the rest of us stared at the download bar as it filled up little by little. And when it finished and the file was saved,
単にいたずらとかじゃないよね。
Sarika knew better than anyone else it was no such thing, but she asked anyway. I nodded firmly.
これを取った人間はいや、誰が貼り付けた？
Ito frowned.
ハッカーじゃないからな。俺ら素人レベルでわかるとしても IP アドレスくらいだろ。個人の特定まで行き着くのは無理だよ。
だよな。
Sometimes the media would say that the police used an IP address to track down a criminal's address, but strictly speaking, that wasn't quite right. Under some special circumstances, like a customer paying for a static address, it was possible, but most of the time you couldn't track down an individual PC from an IP address. And even if you could, the most you could track down was a PC, not a person. Several years ago, this had led to a very famous false arrest case. What the heck were we supposed to do now? I scratched my head, confused.
おい、ついでた見ちゃおうぜ。
Huh?
お前がラブホテルで撮った動画だよ。さっきの映像を見ちゃった後だ。もうどうにでもなれな。
Ito sounded like he was having a hard time believing what he'd seen was real. He'd already copied the file off the Pocketcom and gone to open it. He probably was just overwhelmed. I know that was how I'd been.
間近で撮ってるから相当だぞ。
I gave him a warning, and he responded with a firm nod. He clicked on the file.
しんちゃん、本当に？
ああ、多分な。文化系だったような。
Oh, did he know the girl? Ito was moving at a quick pace. His expression was serious, but he was having trouble hiding his excitement.
そんなことあるのか？
んだよ、マジだって。
We were following Ito down the hallway quickly. After seeing the video of the room at the Love Hotel, he'd said,
こいつ、知ってるぞ。
He'd said that he knew the girl who'd been in the room with us. That couldn't be true. Sarika and I had insisted he was mistaken, but Ito wouldn't listen.
部会で見かけた気がするんだよ。
Even if he was right, the club leaders meeting was where all the leaders of the school clubs and teams got together. If she was there, did that mean she was a leader in some club? I asked Ito, but he just smirked a little.
わかんねえぞ。うちみたいに部長が大勢の人の前で喋るのが苦手で、副部長が部会の議長だから、ただの部員である俺が出ているところもあるんだからな。
苦手じゃない。ただなんていうか。
He didn't like it. It made me nervous. Being in front of all those people, I mean. And everybody knows those meetings never actually lead to anything productive. If you made a movie out of one of them, no one would go to see it.
なんていうか、なんだよ。
いいだろ別に。というかどこに行くつもりなんだよ。
ここだ。
Ito suddenly stopped. It was the student council room on the 6th floor of the annex building.
なんで？
部活紹介とかの書類が写真付きで置いてあるんだよ。校内中探すよりいいだろ。
Logic. Wait a second. I pulled Ito away from the door.
バカ。もしクルスがいたらどうするんだよ。
Just start asking questions. Ito gave a little moan.
それはお前がなんとかごまかせよ。
だからそれができるくらいだったら最初から。
入ります。
Onoe ignored us completely and walked into the room. Damn, now what? You just have to pray that she wasn't here. Our eyes met, and I suddenly forgot how to breathe. Hello. Why? Who's that girl? All right. We'll go with this one again. I'm feeling like green today. What was she doing here?
タクル?
Oh, you're
あ
here
な
too.
たたちもどうしたの全員で。
あ、いや。
The woman, no, the girl, stared at us suspiciously. And then, for the first time, she realized that I couldn't take my eyes off her.
ん? 何ほうけてるのあなたたち。
I changed my mind.
あ、
The words wouldn't come out. What do I say? Why was she here? Why was she acting so normal? I imagine that's going to change here in a moment for a little bit. Without warning, the girl started to laugh.
やっと見つけた。見つけましたよ。
This does not bode well. Everyone froze. Even Kurusu seemed uncertain of what to do as she stared at the girl. The girl jammed her hand inside her pocket. She took out a butterfly knife. Always with the knives, man. She pointed the blade right at me.
宮代タクル。死ねよ、お前。
And this chick is always trying to kill me in my delusions. Was she really a murderer then? Tried to run. I'm sorry, what does that say? Asatical? Is that, I guess that's like fictional brand of boxes? I don't know. I tried to turn around and run right out of the room. I don't know why my brain is fixating on that word. But unfortunately, Ito was in my way. I ran straight into him and fell backwards to the ground. Crap. Alarm bells were going off in my head. Run, 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 run! Get off the ground and run! Oh, that's terrifying. Felt something cold up against my neck.
Bye bye.
Damn. Then came the pain. Felt strangely detached and indifferent as I watched the blood spurt out from my own neck. Well then, that was pleasant. Even though I knew it was just something I had imagined, it still gave me goosebumps. Something like that could really happen right now. Just wanted somebody, anybody, to give me an explanation.
のんちゃん、知り合いなの?
Sarika motioned toward the girl.
ええ、後輩。2年生で文芸部部長の有村ひなえさん。あ、どうもです。
Girl bowed to us.
クルス先輩のお友達ですか?
She got the pointy teeth.
ええ。そっちが新聞部部員で3年の伊藤真二君。同じく部員で2年の尾上セリカ。で、それが部長で3年の宮代拓。身の程を知らない私の愚弟。
Oh, wow. Kurusu's eyes narrowed as she glared at me.
弟さんですか? でも名字が。養護施設のね。へえ、血がつながってない兄弟。なんかいやらしいですね。
Please remove yourself.
小説とかと一緒にしないでちょうだい。
But still, doesn't it seem kind of naughty? She asked with a wink. What? Why? Why are you... What are you do... So why are you doing here? What are you doing here? I wiped my sweaty hands on my pants and tried to ignore my pounding heart.
何してるんですか？いや、
Damn it. Get the words out.
タクル？
Serica seemed to understand what I was trying to say and finished my sentence for me.
有村さんは何しにここに来たんですか？クルス先輩に文化祭のことで話があったんだよ。てか同学年なんだから敬語いらないよ。まあいっか。じゃあ私はこれで。クルス先輩すいませんでした。
Rusu waved a hand and told her not to worry.
事情があるなら仕方ないでしょう。文芸部は文化祭に参加できないと話は通しておくから。でもどうしても事情は言えないのね。痛いけな乙女の秘密ということで何卒。了解。でも来年はフォローできないからね。はい、ありがとうございました。
Girl put her bag on her shoulder and bowed to us, and then went to leave. Wait. I still haven't asked you about the things I need to. Her name, it was...
有村さん?
My voice was loud enough that I made her jump a little.
びっくりした。元気ですね。
ごめんなさい。
いえ、別にいいんですけど。何です？
大声すいませんでした。いや、じゃなくて、ですね。
My face was turning red from nervousness. Damn it. This was always what happened to me the first time I talked to someone. What should I ask?
ホテルで。
ホテル？
何してたんですか？あのホテルで。
I think I've gotten stabbed enough times for today. A moment. It felt like her body moved for just a moment.
有村さん？
I could see Kurusu frown in the corner of my eye. She was looking at me. Her expression hadn't changed, but for some reason, it felt like she was looking me over. And then she smiled.
気になります？
そりゃ。
Just as I spoke, she leaned over and whispered in my ear.
だったら今度
Oh my god.
二人で一緒に行きましょう。
God damn it.
何？なんて言ったの？私と宮代先輩だけの秘密です。
Well, that's that. That was short. I considered that as a possibility, but quickly abandoned it. I couldn't imagine her doing something like that after what I'd seen at the hotel. Something much worse is going on there. An awkward silence ensued as we waited for her to answer.
あなただったんですか？部屋に入ったっていううちの生徒は。
Her tone of voice was perfectly normal. There was no surprise or anger, just a flat, level tone. But somehow that struck me as much worse.
言葉に出してもらってもいいですか？部屋に入ったのはあなたですか？
What?
そうだよ。
そ そうですか。
I couldn't tell if she cared or not.
それでホテルで何を？
部屋のドアが勝手に開いて、それで入れたそうですね。それは本当ですか？
The door? The door opened up on its own? She knew about that? I nodded.
言葉に出してもらってもいいですか？
Huh?
本当だよ。勝手に内側から。
そうですか。
And then she seemed to be looking me over again. What was going on here?
有村さん、何かあなた。じゃあ失礼します。
Arimura ignored Kurisu's question and went to leave.
ちょっとですから何を？
ああ、敬語いらないですよ。それに呼び捨てでいいです。後輩じゃないですか。それから、あなた殺されますよ、宮代拓先輩。
Cool. Those were her last words before she left the room. She didn't seem at all surprised that I had questioned her, but I froze solid. What? Okay. Club president? It's a tweepo? Tweet? Who put this on Hachiko? Isu loves cats. Creepy AF. This is a sumo sticker, isn't it? It actually looks kinda cute. Congrats on 500 retweets. What the heck is this thing? Who put this on Hachiko? Sumo woofer. Sumo woofer! Congrats on 1,000 retweets. Give me a break. I love Hachiko, but I don't care about this creepy dog. Oh my god. Cute, huh? Who put this on Hachiko? This is hilarious. Alright, I'm out. Frickin' Tweepo. Tweepo. Alright, I gotta get out of here. Gotta escape the other Twitter. Tweepo. October 2nd, 2015, Friday. At the same time. Dogenzaka Shibuya. The sky had been overcast all day, and now it had finally begun to rain. Some of the news media that had been swarming around the Love Hotel decided it was a good time to go home. Others just took refuge in their vans, frowning. Meanwhile, Shinjo's mind raced as quickly as the men trying to flee the storm.
どういうことなんだ?
Everything had started right after midnight. Kinai Arimura, the Heikiho girl, had refused to give her even her name until he relayed Momose's message to her. But as soon as she heard it, her attitude changed. His only choice now was to continue to do everything Momose's kid told him to do. The first thing she'd said was that there was almost no chance Arimura was the killer, and that it was safe to let her go. The second thing she'd said was that it would be smarter to let her go and see what she did. The third thing she'd said was that even if he did get some answers out of her, he wouldn't be able to make much sense of them. Shinjo had used every bit of his authority to get her released. He'd been forced to suck up to some people he really didn't like, and in the end, she would be monitored and questioned by the police daily. Since they hadn't known if she had anything to do with Kakida's death, they'd used her assault on the police officer to bring her in. Either way, last evening marked 48 hours since her arrest. They had to decide whether to let her go or seek a warrant for detention. They hadn't found any physical evidence connecting her to Kakida's murder, and Arimura herself said,
何も覚えていません。
That was all she'd said, in fact. Provisional release at this point felt like a bit of a stretch of his authority, but it was a sensible decision. If anything here wasn't sensible, it was the fact that he was doing everything Momose's acquaintance asked of him. He didn't have a plan to follow. This was the first time that it had happened, he thought. He only managed to be successful at his age around what Momose called the hard heads in Section 1, was that he knew how to be flexible. The reason that many police officers could be stubborn and hard-headed was that most of the time, that was how you solved the case. Shinjo understood that the rules they clung to so fiercely, both written and unwritten, were the product of valuable experience. But he also understood that the unorthodox methods his senior detective friend had taught him were a weapon in their own right. Even if the higher-ups didn't like using them, they'd brought him to success. One good example was the time the profilers had told them that the person behind a string of assaults was a man in his 20s who'd never left his house. He'd found out that the culprit was actually a runaway girl in her late teens who lived in a net cafe. He'd matched the internet logs that Section 1 had gathered with the data held by the Social Safety Section, a group that was on notoriously bad terms with Section 1. In the end, he'd cracked the case by logging onto an online game and tracking down several of its players, including the girl behind the attacks. Shinjo was, if nothing else, confident that he was capable of not letting preconceptions keep him from making the best choice. But this time, not only did he not know what was the best choice, he didn't even know if the choices he was making were good or bad.
これじゃあ、百瀬さんの言った通りじゃないか。
If he couldn't change things fast, he might end up taken off the case. He looked at his watch and realized something. The man he was waiting for wasn't here. It had cost him quite a bit to get permission to show him the crime scene, and he was over 30 minutes late.
百瀬さんが言うには特徴のあるやつだからすぐにわかるって話だったな。
He didn't know what he looked like, but there was no way the officer standing guard outside could miss him.
ちょっと待ちなさい！こら！
He heard a loud voice from the hallway. Shinjo decided that before he let him into the scene, he'd give him a lecture about his tardiness. He stopped, surprised.
女?
So much for getting over preconceptions. He didn't expect to see what he saw. He'd convinced himself that anyone weird enough to want to see a crime scene had to be a guy. Preconceptions. Right. But she looked like she'd be very pretty with makeup on, even if she wore none now. A frown was plastered on her face, and her long hair was half-heartedly tied behind her back. And she was wearing a white lab coat, but under it was...
制服? それに、あれは確か...
That was the uniform for Hekiho Academy, the same school that Arimura and the two kids who'd snuck into the crime scene attended. Shinjo motioned to the officer to let her pass, and remembered the last name he'd been given by Momose.
君が久野里さんかな?
Yeah. I leave it to you all. So, you don't need my confirmation.
Huh?
There's no time to waste, as you know. Here. Yeah. Well, I gotta nurse this damn cop. Okay. Later, Chris.
Gotta nurse this damn... Oh, dumb cop. Rude. And then she hung up the phone and glared at Shinjo. She showed no sign of apologizing for her lateness, or gawking at the scene of a murder. This was her, it had to be. When he saw how arrogantly she was behaving, he knew immediately that this had to be the Kunosato person that Momose had told him about. felt a little overwhelmed by her, but tried to make his voice as strong as he could.
黒里さんかな。百瀬さんのことだからどんな人が来ても構わないつもりでいたんだが、若い女の子を入れるわけには。
こんな非常識が蔓延している現場で常識的なことを言うな。それが邪魔だと言われなかったか。
She ignored Shinjo's words and walked right past him. She stepped right on top of the number plates that forensics had put on the ground to identify the locations of evidence. Then she looked at the blinds placed on the window to stop the media from looking inside and stopped. Shinjo felt himself becoming annoyed at her attitude, particularly what she just said about him in English.
こちらが間抜けな警官だろうが、指示には従ってもらう。今すぐに。
世間の連中は死体はみんな死んでると思ってる。
は？
英語を聞き取れる耳は持っていても、ビンチャーは見てないのか。
I'm sorry. Bincher? David Bincher, an American movie director. The line Kunosato said was from the hit psychological suspense movie 8. Got it. She put her hand up to the blind that she'd been looking at.
何してんだ？
あんたらは現場は事件が起きた空間だけだと思ってるのかって言ってるんだ。
She kept her eyes on the exposed window. As she tossed him a Pokécom she'd fished out of her pocket. Shinjo grabbed it without thinking and looked down at it. The comm she'd fished from her pocket. Ugh, God. Can we not? He was stunned. It was footage of the room he was in right now. That was probably Kakita, dead, and Hinai Arimura.
なんだこれは。
ついさっきウェブに貼られた動画だ。
Her answer made Shinjo feel pissed off at everything, including himself. Why didn't he notice? Why did he have to be shown this by a girl who he just met?
窓の外からか。
He grabbed onto the window frame, looking for the spot where the video had been recorded. And all he saw was the external wall of a building, slick with rain. There was only some kind of strange, creepy sticker there.
What?
Is there a camera in the sticker? Shinjo yelled out into the hallway. The officer outside heard the tone of his voice and rushed inside. Shinjo pointed at the window and said,
至急鑑識を呼んで、隣の建物の入り口を封鎖しろ。それから、この映像の出所を。
映像はともかく、建物からはおそらく何も出ないぞ。外壁にカメラなどを取り付けた形跡はなかった。
え？
入り口にあった監視カメラの映像をコピーしてうちで洗っているが、まあ出ないだろう。出てもらっちゃ困るんだよ。
She must have been enjoying this, because Kunosato's frown twisted into a mischievous bully's expression. Again, he didn't understand. He didn't have time for this. He ignored her and ordered his men to seal the building, call forensics, and track down where that video was filmed. With that finished, he turned back to her.
それを調べていて遅れたのか。
現場保全を優先しろ。この動画は貼られた直後にアットちゃんに飛び火した。貼られてから40分強経過している。すでに5000人以上がこの動画にアクセスしてるんだ。その中に事件にへばりついている下のマスコミの関係者がいないと思うか。
待て、勝手に。
ニコニアニュースの渡部です。この動画についてコメントを。海読みテレビです。お聞きしたいことが。
出ていけ、ほらだ。
could hear yelling coming from the hallway.
くそ、またあのネット記者か。
Shinjo ran out into the hallway, infuriated.
捜査一課の方ですか？動画をご覧に。許可なく入らないでください。コメントすることはありません。
押すんじゃない。
ご覧になったんですか？なっていないんですか？コメントすることはありません。
Kunosato was still looking outside the window as she listened to the commotion in the hallway. She stuck her hands in her pockets and stared at the sticker on the opposite wall, the way a person on top of a tall building stares down at tiny people in the street below.
なあ、気分はどうだ？
The sticker pictured two ugly, overlapping faces. The rain made it look like they were crying.
目撃者がいるとすれば、お前だけだろ。
Kunosato smirked like a fighter facing down a worthy opponent. October 2nd, 2015, Friday. I'm gonna be honest, I already can't stand her. No. Time passed. It was now almost midnight. Under a bridge in Shibuya, she walked with her head down so that others couldn't see her strange face. She was dragging her legs so her body tilted a little. She didn't have an umbrella, so the rain that had fallen that evening made her long bangs cling to her forehead. Water dripped off of them. The eerie eyes that poked out from between her locks of hair looked like those of an animal hunting its prey. No one was moving but her. Normally, there would be people here at this hour, but the town left her all alone, as if it had sensed something. She disappeared into an alley without anyone else noticing her. It was several minutes later when they appeared there. A girl less than 10 years old and an old woman well over 70. The old woman might have been blind because she carried a stick and had her hand on the girl's shoulder. And the little girl was carrying something far too big for her tiny frame. Neither of them were carrying umbrellas, and both were soaking wet. They walked at a slow pace. Perhaps they knew the path well, or perhaps they simply didn't care because they paid no attention to anything around them. And then, for the first time, the little girl saw something and stopped. The old woman stopped as well, and the only sound in the alley was the sound of the train. Rain, not train, what? The sound of the, what? Rain, rain, no tea. The girl stood there for a full minute. Eventually, she turned her head and led the older woman away. All that was left was the rain. And the things on the wall. That's a lot of those, and I don't like it. Not a fan of that.
が発見された事件で、その現場を映したと思われる映像がインターネット上に出回っており、
問題の映像は先日渋谷のラブホテルで自殺していた男性の遺体を映しており、
It was past midnight. All the news programs were talking about the video that had been uploaded to the internet that afternoon. Since there was a dead body in the video, none of the programs were actually playing it, but the newscasters had all described it. It was as if they were telling people to watch the rest on the web.
となると、この報道が初耳の人間がネットに流れてくるか。
Twitter was my favorite. I guess. Twitter was the best way to see what people were saying at any given moment. I opened it and took a look. Where can you see the thing they're talking about on TV? This is getting exciting. Link, HTTPing. They're talking about on TV? I don't know what that's beyond my understanding. I saw it, but I should have known better than to watch it this late at night. Someone tell me a funny joke or something. Whenever I searched for a keyword related to the case, I found tons of tweets about the video and the news broadcast. The address of any page or aggregator site hosting the video was getting retweeted at an incredible rate. Of course, this was nothing new. Chan had already been in festival mode since the video had first been posted that evening. The video on the aggregator site had been quickly deleted, but someone had saved it and uploaded it to a bunch of other sites. It's slower again. Like, I'm not crazy, right? Sometimes the text scroll slows down. I don't understand why. Those sites had deleted it, so others had repeated the process. Also, does it have a name yet? No, it's still Love Hotel Incident. I'm just gonna... Here. After the news, the threads on @chan had gotten bigger. Revolving Dead. Yeah, that was way slow. What is happening? Alright, Revolving Dead is better than Twisted, I guess. Twisted is pretty basic, I suppose. I didn't know who'd first come up with that name, but more and more people in @chan were using it. It was probably a play on the revolving bed that the body had been found on. Yeah, that's pretty clever. Fair enough, I guess. If the body had been spinning too, the case was literally about the revolving dead. @chan, Twitter, and all the aggregator sites and pages dealing with the case were in an uproar. I looked around and didn't see any new information. I'd seen it in person myself. I could easily tell when someone was lying or guessing. Why is it doing that? It's weird. There were no big updates on Shibuya News either. The top of the page was about the uploaded video, but it was basically just a rehash of existing information. I thought that with all the fuss, she'd be putting on a web radio broadcast. But maybe she was busy. There was nothing about the sumo stickers or Arimura. Which made sense, I guess. Even Kei wasn't psychic. Only we and the police knew about Arimura, and only we knew about the stickers. The sumo stickers.
本当であれば今日中に音漏れ炭の現場に力シールがあるかどうか確認したいと思っていたのに。
あなた、殺されますよ。宮代拓先輩。
Yeah, that'll give you the heebie-jeebs. I couldn't get the words she'd whispered out of my head. In the end, it had started raining, and I'd gone with Ito's plan of trying to get more information about the video and learn more about Arimura. I hadn't made much progress with either. Of course, it had surprised me that Kurisu hadn't said anything.
殺されますよってなんだよ。
Did everyone hear her say that, or did she whisper it so only he could hear her say that? The question came back to me again for the 100th time, and I still had no answer. What was she warning me about? Why had she told me I was going to be killed? Had I pissed her off somehow? No, it felt more like she was talking about someone else killing me. Then maybe it didn't matter if she hated me or not? And the timing didn't make sense either. We weren't talking about anything weird. We were just talking about the case. Was she telling me? Yeah, the perfectly normal case. The perfectly average, everyday case of the man decapitated by wires on a spinning bed. Was she telling me that if I kept looking into this, I would be killed? But that didn't make sense either. The police had ruled the death at the Love Hotel as suicide. It was a strange way to kill yourself, sure, and after seeing it, I couldn't believe it was just a simple suicide, but did that mean that Kakita had been murdered after all? Murdered by whoever had tried to come into the room? But the police had told me I'd been mistaken, and Ito had told me I couldn't prove it logically. It was no good. It didn't make any sense. I was going to be killed? Did I cross some line?
殺されるぞ、宮代拓郎。
Tried saying it aloud and shivered a little. Was I scared, or... was I excited? I could feel myself start to laugh. That was fine. That was just fine with me. If I'd crossed some line, I'd find out what it was. That was the difference between me and those morons on the internet. I could do it. I had lots of clues. The first was Hinai Arimura herself. I keep like starting to say Animura. It's not. And then Hinai Arimura. The sumo stickers. I'd only seen them at two of the crime scenes so far, but if I could find one at Leaky Noise too, I'd have a clue that no one else in the world had. I should go take a look tomorrow. And then there was the video that had gotten uploaded to the internet. Who had upped it and why?
Huh?
Oh my god, I don't want to look at it anymore. Stop it. I played the video one more time and then realized something.
そういえば、なんでだ。こっちもか。
It was a common thing you found in videos, so I'd never really noticed until now, but I hadn't seen any comments on the internet saying anything about it either, but
なんでこんな処理してるんだ。
there was something weird at the start and the end of the video. It was on screen for less than a second, but at the start the image appeared from bottom to top. And then at the end, it went black from top to bottom, like a blink filter. These weren't particularly unusual effects. It's like a blink transition. The one at the start was often used in TV shows and movies when a character woke up. Of course, this was when the camera was showing his point of view. The one at the end was often used when a character was falling asleep or just before they passed out. Sometimes you could play both at high speed to make it look like someone was blinking. It was called a wipe. It was a method of transitioning video from one image to another.
Huh?
This video was clearly taken from next to the Love Hotel at almost perfectly eye level. From the distance and angle, that much was clear. I spent so much time looking through a camera that I knew how to judge the distance between it and the things it saw. I was sure that if I asked the rest of the newspaper club, they'd agree. But the side of the building where this video was taken was a sheer wall. I could see that for myself in the video I'd taken. The only things I could see outside of the window were a wall and the sticker. The uploaded video looked like it had been taken from someone's eyes. Suddenly, a dumb idea occurred to me. I looked at the picture of the sticker on the wall that I'd printed out. Nah. I shook my head to drive away the stupid delusion. I needed to stay calm and logical. Did he put that on, like, his wall? That would just creep me the hell out. Or is he just, like, imagining it? Tomorrow, I could go see where the camera had probably been placed. I would not be able to put that on my wall without, like, losing my mind. Get that shit out of here. Are the eyes gonna open? No, don't do it. Well, that was deeply upsetting. Did not like that at all. Ed Lucas has joined the channel. Apologize for being late. Amy? Test images spreading through Shibuya as expected. Continue to monitor the situation. Yes. I'm close enough to kill Takeru Miyashiro at any time? Who is Ed? What? Okay, I'm calling it. That's it. I gotta go. It's perfect. Chapter end. I'm going. What? That was upsetting to watch. The eye and the baby. What, the baby? Why is the baby crying? I don't like it. Creepy. All right, I'm out. It auto saved, but I'm gonna save again. So, chapter 2. The case feigns ignorance. I thought the chapter name was Rikishi Sticker. I don't know. Bye.